The boys somehow created a barrier around the same time. Certain people gained unique powers and were known as hunters. With the hunters' hard work, it seemed like peace was restored. However, they were unaware that a far greater threat was looming. Suddenly, a new and terrifying challenge emerged, the most dangerous yet. This was the Chaos Gate. Even with the combined efforts of many hunters, closing the gate proved impossible. Humanity faced the risk of total destruction. Then, the legendary hunters stepped up. These were the world's 12 most powerful individuals with unmatched abilities. Soon, they overcame the disaster called the Chaos Gate, earning their place as humanity's saviors. Their heroic tale spread worldwide, and they were dubbed the 12 Apostles. A message soon confirmed that the Chaos Gate was fully cleared. Someone glanced at her wristwatch, noting that 79 hours, 17 minutes, and 8 seconds had passed since entering and all monsters were defeated. A short girl collapsed on the ground, exhausted, saying she couldn't go on. A woman with a pixie cut commended everyone's efforts. She mentioned that the Chaos Gate wouldn't reopen for a century, meaning this was likely the final gathering of the 12 Apostles. She asked what their future plans were. One person shared that she was off to Hawaii for a much-needed break. A blonde man mentioned he had 4 commercials for hunter gear lined up, while a greeny guy said he'd focus on inventing to his heart's content. A blue-eyed blonde, known as the Thunder Emperor, was asked the same question. He's the story's main protagonist. An old man, observing his hesitation, assumed the Thunder Emperor was still undecided. He remarked that their immense power was a heavy burden, as even a small mistake could cause disastrous outcomes. He was about to offer guidance to this seemingly uncertain young man. Extending his hand, he proposed they find the true purpose of being a hunter together. Surprisingly, the Thunder Emperor quickly rejected the suggestion, casually stating he was done with it all. The old man instinctively said he expected as much, but then confusion set in. Silence fell over the group. The Thunder Emperor wondered why they were so surprised. Another blonde man asked if he was serious. Eventually, they respected his choice to walk away. They then asked what he planned to do next. He quietly mentioned something about a writer. Curious, they pressed in for details with excitement. He declared he'd become a web novel writer in a completely different world and era. A man later took a stage, telling a crowd he'd close his speech with a quote from his book. He explained that before writing, picture sharing your story with someone face-to-face. He stressed that the listener must stay engaged, as fun as the top priority in web novels, repeated 3 times for emphasis. 6 months after the Chaos Gate's sealing, the Thunder Emperor was diligently studying to become a novelist. After watching something, he called it impressive. He felt his mind brimming with creative ideas, confident he was meant to write. Eager to start while inspired, he was interrupted when someone forcefully shut his laptop. It was his friends, inviting him for drinks after his study session. He explained he had a deadline the next day. Understanding, his friends left him to his work. Initially, they crafted words for him as he hoped they'd reach home safely. That day, the Thunder Emperor was in high spirits. He thought it might be what James Patterson described as crafting a masterpiece. Unbeknownst to him, something stirred behind him. The waitress, looking exhausted, announced that customer number 18's rice latte was ready. The latte belonged to our MC, who had already downed several. After a sip, he felt refreshed, while the waitress in the background seemed worn out. She dreaded washing all those cups. Riding a wave of inspiration, the Thunder Emperor raced toward his deadline. He slipped on his headphones and let classical music play. So engrossed in his work, he didn't notice a tentacled monster emerging behind him. Outside, people were panicking as he typed on. Another tentacle smacked the window, but the Thunder Emperor stayed unaware. He was thrilled, nearing completion, while someone gripped by the monster faced imminent harm. The MC kept writing his script, feeling he just needed a perfect closing line. Meanwhile, the monster spotted him. He aimed to finish with flair. As the monster lifted its tentacles and the Thunder Emperor prepared to hit enter, glass shattered behind him from a tentacle strike. He froze as his laptop crashed and broke. The restaurant was in chaos from the tentacle's destruction. The Thunder Emperor sat motionless. He approached his laptop, trembling, and reached for the detached monitor. He dropped to his knees, staring at his ruined device. While the monster rampaged behind him, he despaired. The Thunder Emperor's fury surged as his manuscript was lost. A tentacle lunged to strike, but he unleashed a lightning bolt from his body. The tentacle charred and the massive monster collapsed defeated. He muttered to the octopus to wake up. Fueled by rage, he stomped on it, sparking lightning from his hands, saying it wasn't crispy enough. Lightning flashed. A woman screamed in pain as Jason floated in a pool, electrocuted by the sudden strike. It was a TV drama. A woman lounging and watching remarked on the wild twist. She found it crazy that the male lead was electrocuted and died. She loved the drama's shocking turns. This woman, Crimson Flame or Tai Ico, and Srank Hunter, was judged by a teen at the couch's end. He called her a mess. He was the youngest of the Tai siblings. Named Tai Jun, he was a high schooler. Crimson Flame, Tai Ico, ranked among the nation's top hunters. She led the 7th Division of Guardian Gate, a top-tier guild. With her delicate looks and sharp fashion sense, she was a beloved icon in the hunter world. But at home, her demeanor shifted. Her brother switched the channel, interrupting her. He doubted anyone would peg her as Crimson Flame. Tai Ico stood, scolding him for cutting into a key scene. She complained he was ruining her rare downtime. He retorted that, as a freelancer, she had no real work. Aiden told her to help with chores or go exercise if she was staying home. Crimson Flame brushed him off. Then her phone buzzed. They both glanced at it. A map of district office alert warned of a sudden gate in the area, urging everyone to head to the nearest shelter. The news declared the area the red zone and everyone was talking about the map of district. Crimson Flame set out immediately. Tai Jun asked if she'd been called, but she said no, just that she felt compelled to go. Tai Ico shifted her aura again, now radiating the presence of a true Srank hunter. He grinned, teasing her about duty calling, but Tai Jun said she didn't have to go. When she asked why, he explained Aijin had sent their household freeloader on a task there, though they quickly called him a failed existence instead. Meanwhile, the Thunder Emperor was in distress, his laptop and hard drive completely destroyed. Sighing at his bad luck, he sat on the defeated monster, feeling awful since it was his debut work and today was meant to be his big moment. He dreamed his first work would be a huge success, launching him as a dazzling super rookie, destined to rise as a famous author. He imagined winning the Web Novel of the Year award, giving lectures and entering his golden age. That's how he planned his future. The MC was furious and heartbroken, his body shaking with rage. He shouted that grilling a few octopuses wouldn't cover this loss. In a flash, he turned Super Saiyan, vowing to make them pay the full debt. He declared they'd messed with the wrong guy, then hunted for the boss monster, spotting a dark aura in the distance and heading straight for it. Unit 1 in the area reported all monsters were handled, civilians were evacuated, and they'd clean up the rest. They were told to finish the job properly. One person warned another that time was running out, and the other urged him to keep going. Someone noted that for a sudden gate it wasn't too bad, crediting the captain's immense power. They were talking about Marshal G, an rank hunter and captain of the 4th Division's Emergency Response Unit Guardian. He told his unit to cut the chatter and prepare to face the boss, expecting it to appear any second. One member asked why worry, boasting that an rank captain could easily handle an rank gate boss. CFG warned them not to get cocky or let their guard down as monsters approached during their talk. Sergi stressed they couldn't predict when or where an enemy might strike, urging them to stay in formation. Then, a Hydra-like monster appeared, shocking them. It swung its tail, nearly crushing them. They were stunned to see a Hydra at an rank gate and noticed something when it raised its tail. It exposed injured Sergi's face darkened, realizing someone had been knocked back, fueling his anger. They were warned the boss monster, an rank Hydra, had emerged. The unit was ordered to unleash everything they had. The Hydra spotted them, smashing the building they were in. Saika realized this gate wasn't just a rank with a monster like that. He knew it was perilous and they needed reinforcements to avoid casualties. The Hydra was already preparing another attack. Sergi knew he couldn't withstand it. One head fired a powerful beam across the area. The men on the ground braced together to dodge it, expecting burns, but their captain blocked the attack. Silky was drained, realizing they couldn't just wait. They had to stall until help arrived. The issue was that even one head had mere top-tier power, and if all 9 attacked together, survival was nearly impossible. Head already taken heavy damage, but Sergi refused to surrender. As long as people needed saving and he had strength left, he was determined to fight. He gathered all his power, unleashing his skill power crash, causing a massive explosion. His hammer struck a powerful blow. He was shocked to see it hit 2 heads, understanding what that meant. One head was poised to strike Sergi. He glanced back at an unleashed beam. One Kefjai hit the ground hard, badly hurt. He refused to give up. The heads united their strength, forming a massive orb of light. He realized its impact would destroy everything around. CFG can only swear in frustration. A sudden lightning bolt shattered the beam. Sergi was stunned by the event. He noticed a figure cloaked in lightning. This man glided down with wings of electricity. It was the Super Saiyan MC. CFG felt as if a deity stood before him. The Thunder Emperor had located the boss monster. He questioned if they understood their mistake. He said if they could speak, they should at least try to justify themselves. The Hydras seemed intimidated but lunged at him anyway. Seeing their choice, the Thunder Emperor declared they needed a lesson. He lifted his hand, gathered lightning in his palm, and struck one head with a lightning-charged arm. The blow was so strong it twisted the head aside. The Thunder Emperor yelled about his laptop as he hit another head. He ranted about his manuscript, ruined because of the monster. He demanded to know how it would fix this. By now, he was treating it like a punching bag. He paused, saying above all he was done. The monster trembled, fearing the next moved snap of his fingers. The Thunder Emperor channeled all of his energy, lamenting his lost chance to debut. The Hydra was incinerated. It was hard to feel sorry for a monster beaten relentlessly and burned to ashes. The attack's force spread over a vast area. The Thunder Emperor muttered that even roasting it didn't satisfy him. He groaned that his deadline was tomorrow, with no hope of rewriting everything. Minutes later, the men on the ground began to wake. They had fainted and were clueless about what happened. Then they spotted their captain. They were glad he was alive. They agreed to wait for the rescue team. One man pointed out something. They saw the Hydra's corpse. The MC had struck it so hard it left a mark on its face. Another noticed bruising on its cheek, deducing it was hit powerfully and killed instantly. They turned to the captain. They assumed he was responsible. He tried to deny it but fainted again. Reporter Kim Gambi at Seoul Mapogu Hospital stated that an ranked gate, the first in Korea in 2 years, spawned an ranked Hydra as its boss. He shared that CFG and a ranked hunter faced the monster alone and won. He referred to CFG as Bulldozer. The Hydra battle video on YouTube reportedly hit 100 million views quickly. It was noted that CFG, who bravely defeated the beast and protected people, would be sidelined for 14 weeks with lasting vocal cord damage. They said his vocal cord injuries stemmed from shouting insults at the Hydra at a key moment. Then the TV shut off in a boardroom. People discussed the event. One suggested recruiting Seokji, who defeated an errant Hydra, into the Suho Guild. Another argued against it, noting Seokji was only a rank. Some encountered that he might soon be Srank. They added few hunters have such strength and CFG values being a protector. The debate continued. A nerdy girl from the panel who saw the news was mentally criticizing a Hyen, while others talked. She struggled to conceal her anger as she pondered what he might be doing. To her, he seemed utterly unrestrained. She realized that if Du Huang even guessed that Brainstorm was the one who cleared the gate, it would cause trouble. An elderly man questioned the panel, asking if they truly believed a single hunter could have defeated it. He stated he didn't believe it. This individual was Guildmaster Du Huang alongside Guhusu and Srank. It was amusing because, as mentioned, had just been thinking about it. Du Huang had already pieced it together. He asked her if she agreed. She pretended not to know. He found it hard to believe an 8-day rank Hydra was taken down by just an A-rank hunter. To him, it brought to mind a particular legendary hunter. He noted that he was overlooked and then Du Huang vanished. Now he had finally revealed himself. He was referring to the Thunder Emperor. Du Huang chose to visit him in person. Meanwhile, the Thunder Emperor shook. He was seated opposite a man reading a manuscript. The man called our hero a Hyan in his normal state. And from now on, we'll call our protagonist a Hyan. The man set the manuscript aside. He informed a Hyan it wouldn't do. This was an editor from Gold Label Publishing's third editing team. His name was Kookyoung Mo. He told a Hyan it lacked appeal. The setting was fine, but yet again the monster was killed in one blow. He pointed out a major lack of realism, warning that if it persisted, readers wouldn't connect, would lose interest, and abandon the story. A Hyan explained he tried hard to make it captivating. Kookyoung Mo read aloud about the chimeras, describing brain matter bursting and splattering. He sighed, clarifying he didn't want more vivid details. He asked a Hyan if he'd seen the morning news. Then he mentioned a guardian hunter who saved people during a sudden gate breach and nearly died. He urged a Hyan to picture a low-ranking hunter, not even a high-ranker, risking everything to save ordinary folks. The depiction was heroic. Kookyoung Mo imagined it was a fierce and desperate fight, and even if people didn't see it themselves, they felt it. That's why the hunter's name would stick with everyone. Even without being there, it was as if they grasped the hunter's thoughts completely. Kookyoung Mo emphasized that this created empathy and immersion, and a Hyan seemed to have a revelation. He apologized, admitting he'd never considered it that way. Seeing a Hyan's realization, Kookyoung Mo decided to act. He granted him one more week to revise. A Hyan expressed deep gratitude. He vowed to get it right. Kookyoung Mo warned him to deliver or else. If it still wasn't engaging, he should brace for contract termination. Hearing this, a Hyan sweated profusely, stunned at the thought of losing his contract. A heavy sigh filled the room. It came for a Hyan as he stepped into the house, where Lee Jun called him a slacker and asked if he'd just arrived. A Hyan slumped onto the couch and sighed again. His moans and groans annoyed Lee Jun. Lee Jun punched a Hyan, saying he looked like he was about to keel over. He asked what was wrong now. A Hyan sought advice. He shouted that he might lose his job. Lee Jun summed it up: if a Hyan botched his revisions again, his contract would be cancelled. He'd have to make it more realistic, but a Hyan was clueless about how to write it. Lee Jun asked what he'd written before. A Hyan recounted how he had an A-rank monster squad obliterated in one strike, but the editor called it unrealistic. Then he noted they weren't even S-rank, so he questioned why it seemed far-fetched. That made Lee Jun sigh. Lee Jun asked if a Hyan had ever fought. Irritated, a Hyan yelled yes. Lee Jun asked when, and a Hyan said during the Chaos Gate, battling beasts of destruction for 70 hours straight, which was grueling. Lee Jun wasn't impressed by his example. He asked a Hyan how many legendary hunters exist worldwide. A Hyan answered 12. Lee Jun then asked how many could relate to a legendary hunter's experience. A Hyan repeated 12. Lee Jun clarified that half the world's hunters are ranked F to C. Achieving a high rank as a hunter brings immense wealth, a transformed lifestyle, and for S-rankers not just money, but significant influence, placing them above major corporations, he explained. Such a rank carries immense prestige. So he challenged a Hyan, questioning whether people could truly connect with a legendary hunter's tale. Readers imagine themselves as the protagonist, which is why they enjoy stories where the main character begins at their level and grows stronger, he clarified. For writing such a story, he asked a Hyan where to begin. A Hyan was clueless. Lee Jun shouted that it was about research, urging a Hyan to study and observe how ordinary hunters battle. A Hyan, no longer a hunter, asked where to go. Frustrated, Lee Jun decided to walk away, but a Hyan pleaded for his brother's help. Lee Jun suggested visiting the Korean Hunter Association, confident that if a Hyan asked, the chairman would assist him. He reminded Ahayan that he's the Thunder Emperor, Korea's sole legendary hunter who battled the beasts of destruction. Ahayan nodded, recalling his title at the Korean Hunter Association building. Chairman Park Dayan shouted that this was his point, noting that since last year's demotion warning to rank 2, they'd consistently cleared national gates and excelled in training new recruits. He then mentioned the crisis in France, where their team's aid saved a city from ruin. He added that Germany sought their hunter training expertise, which they provided willingly. The person on the screen coughed, but Dayan kept yelling, furious that their rank adjustment was rejected. He called it absurd. Another voice said it was unavoidable, pointing out that Dayan lacks a legendary hunter. This was Gulshan Grover, the Indian Hunter Association chairman, who noted that 11 nations, including India, support legendary hunters, unlike Korea, where the Thunder Emperor retired abruptly. He questioned how Korea manages its hunters, assuming it was so poorly that a national powerhouse vanished without cause. Dayan insisted it was a personal decision. Gulshan brushed off his excuses, stating that only nations with legendary hunters can claim Tier 1 status. Dayan asked for a Tier 2 rank. Instead, Gulshan suggested ending the meeting, deciding to revisit Korea's rank adjustment later. The meeting closed and Dayan cursed the others, angry that they accepted their help but now dismissed them. His secretary urged him to calm down, mentioning other appointments. Dayan asked about the next item on his schedule. His secretary mentioned a meeting with the Scorpion Guild, which responded to his cooperation request, but cautioned against it due to their low-tier status and rumors of attacking rival guilds, likely using association support to control high-level gates. The secretary feared it would harm the association's reputation. Dayan reminded Wu that as the Korean Hunter Association, they must meet any recognized guild. Deep down, Dayan disliked the Scorpion Guild, knowing other guilds would criticize the association if they collaborated. Suddenly, he noticed an enraged security guard. He asked the security chief about the disturbance. The chief explained that someone in the lobby was causing a scene, demanding to meet him, claiming to be a convenience store owner's son. Dayan scoffed at the person. The chief apologized, but the man kept mentioning Taedongdi convenience store, insisting the chairman would understand. Park Dayan froze, his face showing he recognized the name Taedongdae, the convenience store's son, as Ahayan, the Thunder Emperor and retired legendary hunter. He instructed the security chief to contact the downstairs team to say he was on his way, then rushed off. He frantically pressed the elevator button, cursing its failure and shouted at security to stop the man from leaving at all costs. Switching to the stairs, he ran as if his life depended on it. Meanwhile, a black car pulled up and a man who looked like a mafia member stepped out, noting the building's extravagance and the association's display of wealth. The man was Joe Ji-nam, Scorpion Guild's guildmaster, pleased that the tough Park Dayan agreed to meet them. A guild member toasted Ji-nam, who bragged about his large donation forcing Park Dayan's hand. Suddenly, Park Dayan burst out of the staircase exit and Ji-nam remarked on his barefoot haste. Ji-nam waved, calling out to Park Dayan, but Park Dayan shoved him aside, telling him to move. Ji-nam stumbled dramatically like Team Rocket blasting off. Park Dayan then yelled at security to step back, not knowing who he was addressing, and the staff apologized while Ji-nam stood confused by the dismissal. Park Dayan grabbed Ahayan's shoulders, shaking him and apologizing for his late arrival, admitting he thought Ahayan wouldn't come. He asked what brought him there and Ahayan said he had something to discuss. Park Dayan, barely hiding a slight grin, assumed Ahayan still cared about the Hunter Association envisioning their nation reclaiming glory with the legendary hunter. But Ahayan requested a tour and Park Dayan, caught off guard, automatically agreed, ordering preparations for it. Confusion hit Park Dayan when Ahayan's tour request sank in. Ahayan explained he wanted to watch regular hunters in action closely, offering to grant Park Dayan one request in return. Hours later, Park Dayan outlined a contract if the association helped gather research for Ahayan's writing. Ahayan would act as Brainstorm. Brainstorm was Ahayan's superhero alias, and he asked if there was a better way to observe firsthand. Park Dayan said there was, suggesting a job perfect for Ahayan's needs, thinking Brainstorm's return could boost Korea's global standing. Park Dayan saw an unmissable chance and assigned Ahayan as a gate helper. When Ahayan asked about it, Park Dayan described it as a role for frank hunters, involving loop retrievals, securing escape routes, and rarely assisting in combat, mostly waiting in the back. Some helpers even had time for picnics, Park Dayan added, calling it ideal for observing hunters. Ahayan was thrilled, unaware such a role existed, and Park Dayan noted helpers wouldn't be at deadly high-rank missions. Ahayan confirmed it was exactly what he wanted. Park Dayan double-checked if he was fine with being a helper, and Ahayan told him to send details to the Gyeongda convenience store. Then Ahayan leaped from the high-rise, shattering a window in Park Dayan's building as he left. The secretary questioned if Brainstorm was truly like that, and Park Dayan reprimanded her for her words, admitting the man was a bit odd, but still a vital hope for Korea. Ahayan was thrilled to reach his destination, a crank guild called Gawa Munsasian, excited to discover the world of real hunters there. Determined to write with authenticity this time, Ahayan opened the door and eagerly introduced himself. Inside, he found two men lounging amid scattered trash bags. The man on his phone noticed him, recalling that a gate helper was due that day. The sleeping man jolted awake, mistakenly thinking a gate had opened. The other man corrected him and then remembered it was the day the previously sleeping man approached Ahayan, explaining their busy schedule. Ahayan was eager to experience a real guild. The man offered his hand, introducing himself as Munsasian, the guildmaster of Gawa Munsasian. Ahayan shook it warmly with both hands and shared his own name. Munsasian explained that, as a crank guild, they had only 3 members. When Ahayan asked about the third, Munsasian said he was currently dispatched. Ahayan likened it to the 12 apostles being sent abroad. Munsasian lamented that it was unfortunate Ahayan ended up in such a place. Ahayan asked why, and the man on his phone said their office hardly resembled a proper guild. He noted they'd been stuck at crank forever, with no significant income, barely scraping by. Munsasian told him not to make it sound so bleak. The man insisted he was just being honest and asked why Munsasian was upset. Ahayan observed that the two seemed very close, like comrades bonded over time. Munsasian proudly confirmed they'd been through a lot together. He jokingly said he was tired of it, and the other man, annoying, said he felt the same. Ahayan thought thick and thin sounded impressive, like true hunters. His imagination soared. Munsasian flustered, wondered if that's how it seemed to Frank. The other man smugly claimed they exuded a veteran aura. Ahayan remarked that their camaraderie must make their teamwork stellar and asked when they'd enter a gate. Munsasian, puzzled, said they had no plans to go. Shocked, Ahayan dropped his pen and notebook. Confused as it was a hunter guild, Ahayan listened as Munsasian explained that low-tiered guilds rarely got chances to participate. Ahayan asked what he should do there. Munsasian, casually picking his nose, said there was nothing to do. Ahayan nodded, accepting that gates didn't open daily. He offered to take on any task, promising to do his best. The other man suggested cleaning. Munsasian scolded him as it was his duty that day, rejecting the idea. The man pointed out Ahayan's willingness. With 1 week until his contract ended, Ahayan was determined to find something real and leave the guild. He thought, just wait, manuscript. The next day, with 6 days left, Ahayan returned and eagerly asked about the day's plan. Munsasian suggested cleaning the hallway, and Ahayan agreed happily. 5 days before the contract's end, he asked if any gates were open. A guild member said if there were, he would be wiping windows. Ahayan asked what to do, and the man handed him a white cloth, leaving him cleaning windows. 3 days before the contract ended, an exhausted Ahayan arrived. Munsasian gave him a broom. Looking like a zombie from cleaning, Ahayan, with 2 days left, realized he was doomed. The first day was fine, but he spent the whole week cleaning. Ahayan was spiraling, realizing he hadn't even started his manuscript. Not a single word written, driving him to the edge. In a certain building, a man stayed late at work, slaving away. He looked drained like a zombie, staring at his computer screen. A colleague offered him tea, and he took it gratefully from his junior. The junior asked if he was pulling another all-nighter because of that rookie again. Kookyoung Mo explained he was working on a report. His junior was shocked that Kookyoung Mo, the top-ranking sniper whose projects always soared, was stuck doing that. The junior questioned why Kookyoung Mo even bothered taking on a rookie, putting himself through that. Word was, the rookie wasn't even that skilled. Kookyoung Mo confessed he wasn't sure why he took it on either, but none of the rookie's writing had a raw desperation. He admitted he might be holding on to some hope, though it was the last time he bet on it. The rookie they were discussing was our main character, Ahayan. On the final day before his contract ended, Ahayan was a wreck, convinced his current manuscript was doomed. His word count was 0 with no time left until his contract's end. Ahayan seemed unhinged, even laughing as he thought he was utterly finished. He wondered what he'd do if he got dropped like that. The fear hit him that he might not publish anything for another decade. Suddenly, a man named Samsung told him to gear up. They'd been called to an emergency gate that afternoon. Ahayan, running on fumes, said he handled the gate cleanup and prep. But when the details sank in, he got thrilled about the deployment. His eerie excitement showed on his face. He was back in high spirits, eager to witness real hunter combat firsthand. It dawned on him that this could finally fuel his manuscript. Then he noticed something off. 2 guild members looked troubled. He asked why they seemed so grim. A guild member sighed, explaining the gate was brank. Ahayan, confused, thought newbie ranks were simple. The guild member clarified that for a crank guild like theirs, clearing a brank gate alone was impossible. So 3 guilds had agreed to join forces for the mission. Ahayan figured that was good since it lowered the danger. Mantashi agreed but pointed out the issue. They were teaming up with Kongwon, Do Sox, and Gate Valley of Wolves. Someone groaned about their back aching, and used to hiking up mountains after so long. Gala Munsa Sayong's crew rumbled about the gate popping up out of nowhere. Munsa Sayong was thankful for the work but baffled by what the rookie was doing. The rookie was marveling at every little detail, even obsessed with the rock's ordinary rocks. Munsa Sayong asked if he was investigating or something. A guild member suggested the rookie might just be jotting down notes. Then someone approached Gala Munsa Sayong greeting Munsa. This guy was huge from the Crank Guild Bullgum. The guild master Richard Bear told his guy to say hi to the so-called philanthropist of the guild world. Munsa Sayong looked irritated. One of Bullgum's men asked if he was the guild master of the Crank Gala Munsa Sayong. The man said Munsa Sayong trained rookie hunters well only for other guilds to swoop in and take them. To twist the knife, Richard Bear told his guy not to say snatched, adding that no fool would train guild members just to hand them over to others like that. A member of Munsa Sayong's guild snapped asking if they were done talking trash. He held back long enough and called out Bullgum for poaching their rookies, now having the nerve to speak like that. Munsa Sayong was ready to unsheath his sword. Another of Munsa Sayong's guild members asked Richard Bear if stealing their people wasn't enough. Now he was starting a fight with another guild master. Richard Bear was frustrated, saying the guy was getting too bold, interrupting his elders. He wondered who else was senior besides Munsa Sayong, seeing only troublemakers around. Someone burst out laughing. Samurai, Crank Guild Master from Guild Mantis, found it funny that unknowns were arguing pointlessly. Guild Mantis remarked they were wasting effort. He sneered that once inside the gate, those guilds would be too busy helping to catch their breath. To rub it in, he told them to play support well for scraps. Neon watched the chaos, thinking it was wild. The tense standoff before the gate was nerve-wracking, and Ahayan found it thrilling. He eagerly jotted notes, capturing true realism. Suddenly, someone hit him on the head, asking why he hadn't introduced himself. The man grumbled about slow rookies, warning Ahayan not to touch his chosen monster or face trouble. Ahayan stared down the man, who froze, terrified, as if seeing death. Ahayan noticed the mistake, acting tame and saying head remember the warning. Ahayan excitedly noted the power struggles among helpers. The guy who bit him fled. Munsa Sayong then called Ahayan. Munsa Sayong reminded Ahayan to stay alert and survive as they prepared to leave. Soon, a wolf-like monster attacked. Munsa Sayong faced it, but a bull guild member struck first. Munsa Sayong slipped and fell, scolding the man for his risky move. The man snapped at Munsa Sayong to strike first if he didn't like it. The man argued everyone needed their share and Munsa Sayong was too slow. Munsa Sayong's guildmate cut a monster, but Richard Bear unbalanced him before landing the final hit. Richard Bear claimed the Killheen was stunned, questioning if this was normal for hunters. The scene was pure chaos, with hunters fighting monsters and each other. Some battled over dead monsters, others brutally cut down rivals. It was Ahayan's first time seeing such a bizarre fight. Ryan called it easy and ideal, praising exclusive rights. With exclusive rights, they set their strategy. They let weaker hunters handle small enemies while their guild targeted the boss. Ryan called it an efficient raid. Right then, a massive wolf-like boss monster appeared, exciting the guild. They prepared, Ryan grinning wickedly, thinking a rank promotion was close. Defeating the boss would prove he was above the rest. They charged, slashing the monster repeatedly. The monster was cut all over and fell. Ryan said striking it felt incredible, a life-changing moment. He declared no one could belittle him now. As he moved to finish, a larger, fiercer monster emerged. Everyone froze in fear. It was an rank dire wolf. While others panicked, Ahayan was happy to see the familiar beast, recalling hurting them in Ensrank Gate. The dire wolf charged, swiftly attacking most of Mantis Guild. Ryan was in disbelief, unable to process it. He realized their mistake. Guild members fled, shouting about a gate change. A sudden rank spike from a high-level boss. The rank dire wolf terrified them all. A rank represents an insurmountable barrier of skill that even rank hunters cannot surpass. It was unthinkable for a gate to shift in such a place. The odds of crank hunters surviving in an rank gate are even slimmer than those of an ordinary person inside a gate. A dire wolf attacked Ahayan wounded. Multiple dire wolves turned the area into a gruesome defeat. The hunters cried out for rescue. Meanwhile, Ryong stood paralyzed, reeling from losing his shot at becoming a brank. He couldn't come to terms with it. He reflected on all he had endured to reach that point. Clutching his sword tightly, he charged straight at a dire wolf. He refused to perish so easily. He struck the dire wolf, but with a single blow he was hurled across to the other side. Chaos erupted. Hunters fled for their lives, shouting for aid. One hunter faced being devoured. Bogum pushed another hunter aside to clear his path. Amid the panic, someone shouted for them to pull themselves together. It was Munsa Song. He explained that a gate change is reported to the association right away, so they should stay calm and focus to survive. The hunters heeded Munsa Song as he assured them that if they hid well, the association's dispatched hunters would save them. Munsa Song declared he would hold off the threat to give them time to escape. They were moved by the guild master of Gala Munsa Song's sacrifice. They expressed gratitude and apologized and scattered to save themselves. Some justified their flight, citing families waiting for them. Deep down, though, Munsa Song knew he couldn't defeat those beasts. Still, he believed he could delay them enough for others to get away. He resolved to buy time. Then someone remarked that Munsa Song was acting heroic alone, joking that onlookers might mistake him for one of the 12 apostles. It was his guildmate who said that if it had come to this, they'd at least go down the flare. Munsa Song asked if he was fine with such a pointless death. The guildmate replied that death wasn't certain yet and told Munsa Song to stop acting like a war movie hero. They called their rookie, urging him to flee, offering an apologetic smile. Munsa Song expressed regret to Ahyun for dragging him there. Ahyun was taken aback but began to grasp that some must flee to live while others are fated to fall. Yet a battlefield is where they stand and fight prepared to die. He saw this as reality's truth with that epiphany. The boy thanked them. Then Munsa Song and his guildmate collapsed. A dire wolf closed in. Munsa Song urged Song Jo to escape, but he was stunned to see lightning flash above. Their rookie, Ahyun, now had blonde hair and shed his glasses. As brainstormed, he declared research complete. Pointing at the monster, he unleashed his thunder will skill, incinerating the dire wolves and blasting them apart. Witnessing the blast, the boy had dialed the power down to 5. Lightning split the ground, shattering it. Song-jo and Munsa Song were stunned, exclaiming in disbelief. Ah-hyun, in turn, noticed them and gave a thumbs up, praising their incredible effort. He said he now understood why hunter stories captivate. Munsa Song shouted about a monster behind him. Ah-hyun casually zapped the creature without looking. He shared that he learned much. Munsa Song realized Ah-hyun was the Thunder Emperor. Song-jo was in disbelief. Ah-hyun mentioned an approaching deadline and said he had to leave, asking them to keep his identity secret. He also urged them to treat their injuries, then vanished in a flash. Munsa Song and Song-jo were still processing the events. Suddenly, hunters arrived, noting they were inside, reporting a blast and finding 2 conscious people. They focused on rescuing the wounded. That night, news broke and the gate changed. The hunters at the scene were safely rescued. Late at night, Kookyoung Mo felt nervous as only 1 minute remained before Ah-hyun's contract would end. Suddenly, his phone rang and he quickly checked it. It was a message from Ah-hyun, apologizing and saying he had just sent the manuscript. Kookyoung Mo let out a sigh of relief, noting that it just barely met the deadline. Kookyoung Mo opened the file and quickly skimmed through it, hoping it was better this time. After reading it again, he was surprised and asked what it was, because it was actually impressive. A few days later, a red-haired guy with a backpack stood in the middle of the street, shouting that he was back. A child asked his mother if the red-haired guy was also a hunter. The mother told her child not to stare at him. The red-haired guy expected his friends to be stunned since he had returned as a crank hunter. It had been 6 months since he was sent to a brank guild under his cousin for training. He faced many challenges, but they were all just steps toward his improvement. After tireless training day and night, he finally surpassed the limits of a drank hunter. He said goodbye to the old, weaker hunter Choi Yongsik. Now, as a crank hunter, he matched his seniors in the Gawa Munsasian. He found it odd that the guild was so quiet when he arrived, especially since they should have known he was coming back that day. He wondered if they had planned a surprise party for him. Deciding to go along with it, he opened the door and announced his return, but it was silent. He noticed a guy at the computer. Ahyan asked who he was and Yongsik asked the same question back. Ahyan introduced himself as a gate helper. Yongsik looked disgusted when he learned Ahyan was in Frank, the lowest rank. Ahyan confirmed his rank and Yongsik cut him off. Yongsik said it was perfect timing since he had just been promoted to crank. It seemed like Yongsik was about to bully him. He offered to show Ahyan how things worked. On their way back, Munsa Seon and Sungjo discussed the Thunder Emperor. Sungjo asked Munsa Seon if he had assigned cleaning duties to the Thunder Emperor. Munsa Seon confirmed he had. Sungjo realized he was in trouble from giving Ahyan man so many cleaning tasks, especially since Yong had said goodbye to him. But he shouted that Munsa Seon was just as responsible. Munsa Seon wondered why the Thunder Emperor had even joined their guild. Sungjo said that if he had known, he wouldn't have made him clean. Munsa Seon mentioned that the Thunder Emperor revealed his true identity before leaving, so they likely wouldn't see him again. Sungjo said it was a pity. Munsa Seon asked why he felt that way and jokingly asked if Sungjo thought they should have gotten an autograph. Sungjo said that having one of the 12 apostles in their guild would bring huge benefits. They could clear high-level dungeons quickly and rank up. Munsa Seon scolded him, saying that wasn't the point. Sungjo told him to relax. Munsa Seon asked if he even understood how risky their last mission was. Sungjo admitted he knew, but Munsa Seon questioned why he was talking nonsense. He explained that gate changes happen because they react to the mana levels of the hunters involved, and that one was clearly caused by the rookie. Fighting with the Thunder Emperor would put their lives at risk every time they entered a gate. Munsa Seon was upset because he had a family to care for. He shouted that he opposed recruiting him. Sungjo pushed his face away, saying that if he kept talking, people might actually think the Thunder Emperor was joining their guild. Sungjo clarified he was only joking. They entered the guild, expecting Ah Hyunmin to be gone, but saw Yongsik telling Ah Hyun to repeat after him, saying that in the harsh hunter world, Franks aren't real hunters. Ah Hyun repeated it, and Yongsik told him not to worry because he had Yongsik's guidance. He promised to make him an rank hunter, but first Ah Hyun had to start with the basics. Yongsik told him to begin cleaning. Then he noticed his seniors and greeted them, but they responded with their fists. Man Se-seong and Sungjo confronted Choi Yongsik, who was bewildered about the situation. They questioned if he understood the consequences of his actions. Choi Yongsik admitted he was clueless. They pointed out that he had bullied the strongest hunter, forcing him to demean Frank hunters as worthless. Meanwhile, the main character, Ah Hyun, simply grinned, finding the place quite fascinating. Earlier, Cook Youngmo had told Ah Hyun that his manuscript was outstanding, particularly praising its realistic feel. He described how the hunter's greed turned battles into chaos and highlighted the protagonist's selfless bravery for his team. Cook Youngmo found the raw despair woven into the story deeply touching. He encouraged Ah Hyun, saying that if he kept improving, debuting as a writer would be within reach. Ah Hyun's face lit up as he thought about his debut, feeling energized by the opportunity. He believed joining the guild was the right decision. Determined to make it happen, he planned to dive deeper into research to achieve his goal. Suddenly, Man Se-jing, Sungjo, and Cho Young took pause, sensing a dark vibe coming from Ah Hyun. Man Se-jing asked Ah Hyun what he was working on, suspecting it might be a list of people to punish, as if Ah Hyun was tracking their wrongs to make them pay. They tensed up when Ah Hyun said he had something for them, fearing he might strike them with lightning. Ah Hyun burst out laughing, amused by their reaction, which reminded him of a JoJo's Bizarre Adventure moment. Man Se-jing shielded himself, shouting that he had a family to support, but Ah Hyun handed them a gate raid permit for a team of 4, allowing the full Gala Man Se-jing team to participate. Chuyong-sik was thrilled about the opportunity. Man Se-jing double-checked if Chuyong-sik was included in the plan. While Chuyong-sik was still getting roughed up in the background, Ah Hyun confirmed that Chuyong-sik was part of it and shared his desire to officially join the Gala Man Se-jing Guild. Hearing this, Man Se-jing and Sungjo paled and Chuyong-sik was shoved outside, left sitting by the door. Despite the chaotic welcome, Ah Hyun explained that he wanted to join the guild to further his research as a writer. Man Se-jing, a guild member, acknowledged Ah Hyun's reasons for wanting to join, but Man Se-jing noted that their guild was small, meant for the Thunder Emperor. Sungjo interrupted, urging them to let Ah Hyun join, but Man Se-jing, annoyed, thought he was joking. Sungjo, serious, reassured him with a pat on the shoulder. Sungjo then reminisced about the guild's early days, when 5 inexperienced friends founded it. Over time, the guild grew, and they enjoyed years of chasing their dreams. But as Richard Bear once said, members gradually left to face reality, settling into ordinary lives, leaving behind their ambitions. Still, Sungjo sensed that Man Se-jing carried lingering regrets. He offered to help, seeing not the Thunder Emperor, but a young man chasing his dream in Ah Hyun. He told Man Se-jing that he was similar, and that Ah Hyun's arrival was a chance for the guild to try again, especially for Jiho's sake. Sungjo clarified that Ah Hyun wasn't joining as the Thunder Emperor, but as a web novel writer and gate helper named Ah Hyun. Man Se-jing reflected on this, recalling joyful past moments and whispering about dreams. He agreed to let Ah Hyun join, Ah Hyun being with a wide smile, shouting that he'd give it his all. Meanwhile, a black van drove past the guild's office. A man on the phone reported that they'd found the helper the guild master had mentioned. At a cafe, Yum was writing a line about turning someone into an rank hunter, finding it compelling. The waiter, curious, asked the bartender what Ah Hyun was up to over there. The old bartender, after hours of muttering to himself, told Ah Hyun to stay because he boosted sales. When the door chimed, they welcomed a customer, and the waiter was stunned to see an old, distinguished man he called Dawang. Dawang announced he needed to speak with someone specific. He met Ah Hyun and asked for the shop to be cleared, including staff, promising it would take only 30 minutes. He revealed a suitcase stuffed with cash, assuring generous compensation. The bartender, eyes wide with shock, quickly complied. The gentleman's guards ushered everyone out of the cafe. Dawang remarked that a Haiyan had evaded him for so long, but now they'd finally met. His menacing presence made a Haiyan pause his music. A Haiyan removed his headphones and glanced back to find Dawang standing close, declaring they had unresolved matters. Dawang called him the Thunder Emperor, embracing him warmly while asking what Head been up to. He seemed overjoyed like a fond grandparent, saying he missed his little troublemaker so much he feared Head die. To everyone's surprise, a Haiyan unleashed lightning. Stepping back, a Haiyan explained he was busy writing a novel and shouldn't be disturbed. Dawang noted a Haiyan's usual fussiness. Pulling up a chair, Dawang insisted a Haiyan wouldn't escape easily. Confused, a Haiyan asked what he meant. Dawang, overcome with emotion, shouted that since a Haiyan retired, He'd ignore all his calls. A Haiyan tried to clarify that the old man's constant calls, even at odd hours, cost him sleep. Dawang countered that if a Haiyan had just met him once, he wouldn't have called so much. Dramatically, he asked how a Haiyan could treat his grandfather this way, but a Haiyan snapped back that he wasn't even his real grandfather. A Haiyan said that since Dawang had seen him, that should suffice, urging him to leave so he could write. Dawang had one question: why had a Haiyan abruptly retired as a hunter? A Haiyan barely listened as Dawang rambled on. He mentioned shoes a Haiyan had asked about before, designed by a subsidiary of their Suhomun guild, with only 100 pairs of the black limited edition made globally. Annoyed, a Haiyan shut his laptop and turned to face him. A Haiyan explained he needed gate helper status for novel research, so he struck a deal with Mr. Richard Bear to return as a hunter on that condition. Dawang asked why he didn't join Suham instead, and a Haiyan said it was too powerful, lacking the realism he needed. Dawang pressed for clarification. With a creepy smirk, a Haiyan exaggerated that strong-born hunters couldn't grasp regular hunters' reality, a funny claim from someone his editor criticized for lacking realism. Dawang admitted he didn't fully understand but concluded a Haiyan needed more research. Dawang offered that if a Haiyan joined his guild, He'd ensure success for all the research he wanted. A Haiyan revealed He'd already joined a guild. Shocked, Dawang sought confirmation. A Haiyan reiterated he was part of a guild and told Dawang to drop the successor talk. Laughing, the old man said he was impressed any guild could recruit the Thunder Emperor, assuming it was remarkable. He considered buying them out, but a Haiyan warned him against saying such alarming things casually. A Haiyan stressed He'd just joined officially, so Dawang better not try anything strange. Dawang nodded in agreement and then grew solemn, speaking directly to a Haiyan. Not as the Thunder Emperor. A Haiyan was already frustrated, but Dawang stressed that he needed to listen closely because the matter was serious. He cautioned a Haiyan that now that he was back, someone might identify him, which could put him in harm's way. Dawang advised a Haiyan to stay alert at all times. A Haiyan shot back that he wasn't afraid of danger. Dawang clarified that he wasn't worried about a Haiyan himself, but about the people close to him who might not be as powerful. He had more to share, remembering a Haiyan inside the gate, perched on a monstrous corpse, his eyes appearing empty and lifeless. A Haiyan pressed Dawang to say what else he meant. Dawang simply gazed into a Haiyan's eyes, noticing they were markedly different from before. Then he broke into a smile, his tone turning light again, joking that if things went south, a Haiyan could always join Sumun. He playfully tousled a Haiyan's hair and announced he was heading out. In his mind, Dawang felt pleased with how things went. He was relieved to see a Haiyan finally looking vibrant and alive. As he stepped out of the building, he asked Secretary Kim how much the last cafe purchase had cost. Secretary Kim answered it was roughly 1 billion won. Dawang then casually asked what it would take to buy a publishing company, almost as if he was flaunting his wealth. In reality, Dawang was prepared to go to great lengths for a Haiyan. As he climbed into his car, a stranger across the street observed them and reported via phone that a Haiyan was indeed with Dawang. On the other end, Jinam was puzzled, intrigued that an frank hunter like a Haiyan was linked to influential figures like the chairman and Dawang. Nam began to suspect that Du Wang's warm treatment of this Frank might confirm rumors of him having a treasured grandson. The spy updated Nam that a Haiyan had just exited the cafe and had moved forward as planned, but Nam urgently yelled to hold off. Nam shouted to stop everything immediately and ordered his men to stand down. He was on the verge of revealing a Haiyan's true identity to his subordinate, but it was already too late. A car slammed into a Haiyan, breaking his eyeglasses into pieces. Nam felt a surge of fear, realizing they had targeted Du Wang's grandson. The spies faced rain of color and dropped his phone, fleeing the scene while insisting he didn't know. Meanwhile, the men in the car with only minor scrapes believed they'd finished the job, but their confidence wavered when they saw a Haiyan standing unharmed in front of them. The men were bewildered, yelling that a Haiyan was some kind of monster. One couldn't wrap his head around how this was possible, given a Haiyan was listed as an Frank hunter. He sprang from the car, brandishing a blade, while the driver barked at him to kill a Haiyan. A Haiyan, irritated, muttered about a car hitting him out of nowhere, recalling his mother's warnings about not staring at his phone while walking. When the dust cleared, he spotted two men lunging at him. A Haiyan nimbly dodged their attack, moving like a scene from the Matrix, then seized their faces and jolted them with electricity, striking them point blank. The two attackers crumpled to the ground out cold. A Haiyan, still fuming, snapped back to reality and asked if the men were all right, realizing Head acted on instinct. He grew anxious that someone might have witnessed the scene. Then a shout rang out that Du Huang was nearby, and a crowd of fans rushed toward Du Wang's car. A Haiyan breathed a sigh of relief, grateful that the crowd's attention was no longer on him. He mentioned that Grandpa can be useful at times. Then he realized the two attackers seemed like hunters. He was confused about why they would target him. A few minutes later, he decided to talk to Park Dahan. The ambulance took the two hunters away. Park Dahan said sorry to a Haiyan and admitted he knew those guys were reckless but didn't expect them to go that far. He said those guys went way too far this time. A Haiyan asked if Park Dahan knew them, and Park Dahan confirmed he knew them well, describing them as total scum. Park Dahan reacted with a flinch. A human nearby had a dark vibe and was giving off electric sparks. Park Dahan explained that the attackers were likely part of the Scorpion Guild. He noted that the Scorpion Guild has been seen as dangerous for years. After a Haiyan retired, the Korean Association faced money problems, and the Scorpion Guild was one of the groups that offered funds. He added that the guild master, Jo Nam, is known for doing anything to get what he wants. Park Dahan recently met with Jo Nam, and it happened to be the day a Haiyan arrived, so Park Dahan sent Nam away. That's likely why Nam wanted revenge. Since Nam couldn't go after the association president, he aimed at a Haiyan, who is listed as an Frank. Han apologized to a Haiyan, admitting he shouldn't have taken help from someone like that. A Haiyan responded, telling them to let it go. He pointed out that their boy was radiating lightning and had an intense aura. Park Dahan's secretary, standing nearby, felt his heart pound. He couldn't believe this was the same aura monsters felt facing the world's strongest hunter. This was the true power of the Thunder Emperor. Park Dahan, now alarmed, urged a Haiyan to calm down and promised to protect a Haiyan's current guild if he was worried. He pleaded with a Haiyan to drop it, but to a Haiyan it was thrilling. He got excited, realizing hunters don't just compete inside gates but live in a wild reality. He thought hunters also fight and kill outside gates. Imagining the protagonist growing stronger through these challenges, he found it exciting. A Haiyan's eyes sparkled as he told Park Dahan he didn't need to act since everything was already perfect. Park Dahan was stunned and a Haiyan declared things were about to get exciting. Nam scolded his men for ignoring his order to cancel the mission. He said if they went ahead, they should have at least killed the target. Instead, they got beaten and ended up in an ambulance. He questioned if they deserved to call themselves Scorpions. One attacker explained it seemed the target had a bodyguard who vanished after a flash of lightning. Nam, furious, punched him, dismissing the lightning excuse. He asked if the bodyguard was some kind of storm god. He lectured them for wearing the Scorpion badge but failing to take out one kid. Shin-nam couldn't believe their failure. The guild members apologized together. Settling into his seat, Shin-nam called them useless fools. The real issue wasn't just help. Shin-nam knew if the target was the real grandson, Huang, leader of one of the 4 great guilds, would act. Shin-nam accepted there was no turning back now. Shin-nam then remembered the gatekeeper had a guild. A member said it was a crank guild called Gawa Munsasian. Shin-nam ordered his team to buy every gate that guild bids on and ensured no guild would accept the gatekeeper. He decided since they'd gone this far, they might as well go all in. He instructed his team to find and kidnap a helper or family member. Meanwhile, a CDO left a convenience store, strolling casually. She remarked how easy it was to grab ice cream late at night. Unaware she was being watched by dangerous people, she browsed her phone, pondering which movie to watch at home. A man crept up behind her, covered her head to restrain her. They hustled her into a van. SL was shocked, realizing she was actually being kidnapped. It was all she could think about. Taiko chose to go along with it, curious since it was her first time. They reached their destination. Taiko sat with her hands bound in the sack still over her head. Jinan was entertained. He said even the mighty Sword Emperor wouldn't have expected this. Ace-class beings have power beyond normal limits. Jinan believed that even without defeating the Sword Emperor, a few Guardian Guild captains could destroy their group. He had heard that if Du Huang truly adored his granddaughter, even the Sword Emperor was just human like them. Jinan figured that holding the Sword Emperor's kin hostage would stop him from acting rashly. He tightened Scorpion's grip carefully until they achieved their goal. This was their moment. If they could secretly control the Guardian Guild, Scorpion Guild would dominate South Korea. Jinan then noted had never heard of Du Huang having a granddaughter. Curious, he lifted the sack. Taiko's glasses dropped. After a brief pause, he replaced the sack. Everyone grew tense. Nimjam realized they'd made a huge mistake. Panicked, he recognized the person before them as Crimson Flame. Taiko incinerated the sack. She burned through the ropes too. She asked what they meant about the Sword Emperor. Jinan's legs buckled. Taiko was livid. She guessed they had issues with her guild master and demanded their next move. She said it was the first time being captured, so they'd better make it exciting. At the same time, Gala Munsa Science Guild stood before a gate. Choi Yong Siksak told a newbie to watch closely, promising to show who the guild's true star was in a hen's mind. Choi Yong Siksak seemed like a comic book hero from a hen's stories. Choi Yong Siksak was acting stranger by the minute. Sun Tzu felt nervous. A hen thanked the guild master for welcoming him. He said joining was the right call. Munsa Shaun replied that they owed him thanks. Sun Tzu slung an arm around a hen, grinning, saying their raid was only possible because of a hen's last permit. Sun Tzu admitted they wanted to keep their dignity and claim the gate alone, but Scorpion Guild snatched every raid permit they tried for. Yoon recognized that guild's name. His face grew stern. Sun Tzu asked if he knew them. Sun Tzu glanced at Munsa Shaun, as if silently asking if head messed up, hoping for a silent reply. Munsa said he didn't know but felt uneasy. Choi Yong Siksak, clueless, eagerly urged the veterans to charge in. Choi Yong Siksak said he was pumped. Munsa Shaun told him to hold off. A hen sighed, visibly frustrated, saying Scorpion Guild was playing dirty. Then his phone buzzed. He read the message, puzzled. A group chat with 3 members received a message featuring a photo of VC, with defeated Scorpion Guild members behind her punished by sitting on their legs with arms raised high. The SEO, nicknamed Gorilla, was part of the chat. Iju, known as Arrogant Bastard, responded, suggesting Taiko was behind the kidnapping. Gorilla swore at Arrogant Bastard, who then asked what happened. Gorilla told him to ask Jin Nam. When Arrogant Bastard asked who Jin Nam was, Gorilla explained he was the kidnapper and Scorpion Guild master. A hen read the exchange and grinned. He nearly called Gorilla by her nickname but opted for older sister instead, leaving the message unedited. A hen then offered Gorilla a wish ticket in return for a favor. Gorilla, shocked her loser brother, replied, asked what he wanted. Suddenly, someone was heard panting, sprinting toward a door. It was Jin Nam, who exclaimed he almost died. A guild member asked him what the chaos was about. A guild member was confused about why Jin Nam, the guild master, seemed so tame. When asked if they could leave, the member told Jin Nam it was humiliating to be so shaken over one girl. Another voice remarked that the girl Crimson Flame was only Sclass in name and seemed like just a pretty face they could overpower together. Jin Nam warned them not to be foolish, asking if they knew who Crimson Flame was. He explained that her presence left only ashes. With every gate, she entered radiating intense heat even outside. She was a rare fire-type mage, specifically an AO01. He called them idiots for thinking they could defeat and shrank mage just because she was attractive. Jin Nam told them to be thankful things hadn't gone worse. He was furious because his plans had collapsed. He hadn't realized Crimson Flame was the Sword's Emperor's granddaughter. His goal was only to deal with an arrogant gate helper. Though stepping back now, he swore to settle things later. His thoughts were interrupted when Crimson Flame called out to them. Jin Nam, startled, asked what was wrong since Shed already released them. Crimson Flame said Shed changed her mind, but the snap flames engulfed the men. They demanded why, and she explained that Ahyun had rarely asked her for a favor, sharing how they targeted her little brother. Jin Nam realized he was in deep trouble. Crimson Flame declared they'd ruined their own lives. She said annoying Ahyun was her role. Unleashing a massive dragon flame, she stunned everyone. The men faced a fiery fate which seemed preferable to Ahyun's lightning. Flames soared, and the warehouse exploded. Isu was amazed. The Scorpion Guild members were launched backward from the impact behind her. She felt like a comic hero after the guild's kidnapping of Hongyom led to their destruction. South Korea was abuzz over the shocking Shrank kidnapping case, with publishing company staff discussing it. A man wondered if kidnapping and Shrank was a new way to self-destruct. Another said the Scorpion Guild, top among rank guilds, let pride cloud their judgment. Meanwhile, Kook Young Mo, absorbed in his phone, got a message from IU about submitting a manuscript tomorrow. Kook Young Mo wondered if something was off. At the heart of the chaos, Ahyun was irritated, yelling at others to leave so he could write. Inside his room, someone threw a fit, demanding to know why Ahyun had personally asked Crimson Flame for a favor about them. Ahyun asked if she truly wanted the answer. Her eyes sparkled with excitement, but when Ahyun suggested she use her token, her face turned icy, and she snapped at him to get lost. As Ikko started to leave the room, Ahyun grumbled about the Scorpion Guild delaying his manuscript, and now a guerrilla incident had stopped Ikko in her tracks, prompting her to choke him in frustration. She guessed that he should perish at the gorilla's hands while Ahyun's face turned blue from lack of air. Gasping, he offered to explain, but she no longer cared to hear it. When he mentioned his guild, she released her grip. He revealed that the Scorpion Guild was harassing their group, coughing heavily, which startled Ikko. Ahyun remarked that he nearly died before finishing his serialization. When asked if he was followed by a guild, he confirmed Head joined one, urging her to keep it quiet since he preferred to avoid attention. But it was too late. SEO ran off yelling for their parents, and soon the whole family buzzed with the lively news. The next day, Ahyun arrived at work, and Sung-jo noticed the lunchboxes he carried. Ahyun explained that his parents sent them as thanks for welcoming him into the guild. Sung-jo, touched but flustered, said it wasn't necessary but appreciated the gesture, noting that Mun-sa-song was asleep, so they talked later. Choi Young-sik was late due to errands, and Sung-jo asked if Ahyun heard about the Scorpion Guild's kidnapping. Ahyun nodded and Sung-jo grinned, saying it felt justified since they kept stealing raid rights. Privately, Ahyun felt guilty, knowing he was the cause. Sung-jo mused that despite their differing ranks, their paths kept crossing, questioning if it was mere chance. He found it odd that Scorpion, a top guild, suddenly targeted their bids, sensing a deeper reason behind it. The kidnapping of an Shrank hunter was unprecedented, making Ahyun nervous, wondering if Sung-jo suspected his role. His hand shook, fearing expulsion for being a burden. Then Sang-ho concluded there was only one explanation. Ah-hyun panicked, apologized, and begged not to be ousted, just as Sung-jo exclaimed they were about to strike it rich, explaining that high-rank hunters coveted their gates for a reason. Sung-jo believed a massive treasure awaited in the gate they bid on, calling it luck. With Scorpion out of the way, the stolen raid rights were freed, promising wealth. He laughed wildly until Munsa-song's foot met his back, yelling for quiet to sleep. Munsa-song teased that Sung-jo, usually serious, was acting like Choi Yang's sick. Sung-jo insisted the treasure was real, earned through their hard-fought bid. But Munsa-song brushed it off, saying they should move if the rookie was there, as he had mercenary work next. Sung-jo dreamed that finding the treasure would end their grueling mercenary days. Munsa-song told him to make it happen first. Ah-hyun-min sighed in relief, his earlier panic subsiding. Then a message from his editor popped up, requesting a quick meeting about the manuscript he just sent. Ah-hyun-min felt uneasy, knowing feedback was coming, as he met Koo Kyung-mo at a cafe. Koo Kyung-mo shared that Head read the manuscript and found it much improved since their talk about ending the contract, which thrilled Ah-hyun. However, Koo Kyung-mo pointed out some lingering problems like the question of when the protagonist would finally rise to a rank hunter. Ah-hyun-min was puzzled by this critique. Koo Kyung-mo elaborated that Ah-hyun's recent writing had gained realism and intrigue, but it leaned too heavily on daily life details. He noted the absence of a significant event to spur the protagonist's growth, leaving the story stagnant. Typically, a protagonist begins as an ordinary figure, facing challenges, training, and growing stronger, which lets readers feel satisfaction and release through their journey. Ah-hyun-min asked about this growth arc, and Koo Kyung-mo explained that even the 12 apostles weren't born powerful. They became heroes by overcoming trials and battles. This grueling path fueled people's passion for them. Yet Koo Kyung-mo heard that Ah-hyun's Thunder Emperor started with immense power, which matched Ah-hyun's vision but confused him. Koo Kyung-mo stressed that it was time for Ah-hyun's protagonist to evolve into a higher form AI. Ah-hyun-min suggested adding a scene in the next episode where the protagonist triumphs over a challenge to grow stronger. Koo Kyung-mo agreed, but soon had to leave for another meeting, and Ah-hyun thanked him for the insights. Before going, Koo Kyung-mo urged Ah-hyun to reflect on what growth meant for him as a writer. That advice lingered in Ah-hyun's mind after Koo Kyung-mo left. Alone, Ah-hyun pondered a growing protagonist and questioned what growth truly meant. By night, he was still at his computer, wrestling with a concept. Deep in thought, Ah-hyun posted on a forum asking how to show growth. One user replied that it's straightforward: show the protagonist gaining stronger skills or new gear to boost their power. Ah-hyun saw this as training to get tougher, but another user, Hungry, disagreed. Hungry argued that if the protagonist only grows externally, the story lacks depth. Internal growth is essential too, they said, though it's hard to define. It could mean overcoming trauma or resolving inner struggles, like a socially awkward protagonist growing by making friends or helping one face a big hurdle. This idea of internal growth confused Ah-hyun. He couldn't grasp it fully, but he figured he could at least observe companion growth. The next day, Munsa-seong faced a huge bear and told his team to hold their formation. The bear roared, slamming his paw down, cracking the ground. But Munsa-seong's sword blocked the blow, and he looked unfazed, warning the bear head now use real force. He called some Jo and Choi Yong-sik to strike, and they slashed the bear. Ah-hyun watched but couldn't write, finding no inspiration. Reflecting, he realized their combat style hadn't changed in weeks. There was no growth to draw from, and he feared his contract's end. For weeks, the team's fighting stayed the same, offering Ah-hyun nothing new to reference. Without progress, he knew his contract was at risk. They defeated the bear, and Munsa-song praised their efforts, then noticed Ah-hyun, wondering what the rookie was up to. He saw Ah-hyun on the ground, pleading desperately to keep his contract alive. Munsa-song was about to suggest they end the meeting to go home, when Choi Yong's sick-stick cut in, saying they overlooked something. Munsa-song thought he meant profit shares and said it would be sorted soon. Choi Yong's sick-stick clarified that wasn't it. He meant celebrating his return and the newest team member's arrival. 2 years had passed since that moment. Mansa Song seemed uninterested in the idea, saying he was busy that day as he walked off, proposing they party later. Yong's sick stick, surprised, asked Sung Jo if Mansa Song was okay. Sung Jo explained it was because Mansa was dealing with his responsibilities at the bus stop. Mansa Song took a bus looking happy before reaching the stop. He visited a bookstore and a flower shop carrying a book and flowers. Smiling broadly, he entered Shield Hospital, where a woman and a young patient were cheerfully talking. They noticed Mansa Song's arrival. The young patient beamed and called out to his dad. Mansa Song walked in, hiding his gifts behind him, and asked his son if he was feeling okay. His son proudly said he ate all his food today. Mansa Song praised him, saying good kids earn rewards, and revealed the book. The book was a modern fantasy novel by Nami Gang about hunters, not romance, which Mansa Yong knew his son wanted. The boy loved it, thanking his dad and calling him the greatest. Mansa Song called his wife over, handing her the flowers. Surprised, she learned it was their anniversary. They had both forgotten the date. His wife was delighted and Mansa Song blushed. As they shared a warm moment, their son interrupted, embarrassing them. Mansa Song asked what was wrong. They saw their son's nose bleeding, his face uneasy. He said something felt off and fainted. Mansa Yong shouted for Jaeho. Jaeho needed an oxygen tank to breathe and looked very pale. Mansa Song's wife wept beside their son while Mansa spoke with the doctor. The doctor said the medicine was helping, so Jaeho should be stable for now, but his rare condition worsened with man exposure. The doctor said it was tough, but surgery was needed soon. Mansa Song recalled the doctor's promise to prepare for surgery whenever he was ready. Mansa Song said he understood. Mansa Song considered another loan. If that failed, he'd take more mercenary work to raise the funds. Returning, he saw his wife crying. He wiped her tears, promising to find the money and put on a brave face, saying surgery costs were no big deal. Jaeho woke up, calling out weakly. Mansa Song asked if he felt better, assuring him he'd be okay. The doctor ensured Jaeho's comfort before leaving. Jaeho cried, apologizing, wishing he wasn't sick so his parents wouldn't suffer. His parents were stunned and said no, Jaeho shouldn't apologize, they should. Mansa Song teared up, promising their son they'd make him well. They vowed to heal him. Later, Mansa Song stood in a long line, looking sorrowful. He was told he couldn't get new loans because he already had unpaid ones, and his application was denied. His only choice was mercenary work, and he looked worn out. A man approached, praising his hard work, and asked why he wasn't staying with his own guild, wondering if he needed fast money or something else. Mansa Song admitted it was something like that, surprising the man who didn't expect it to be true. Then Mansa Song asked him a question, and the man was stunned to learn he was borrowing 200 million. He kindly explained that, as crank hunters, they face similar struggles. Mansa Song noticed the man's silence, and then the man asked him to wait while he considered something. The man made a phone call, asking if a crank could handle it, and hummed up. Mansa Song asked if there was a good job available. The man hesitated, unsure if it was the right choice. Mansa Song asked what the job was, though he didn't care much. He was willing to take on anything. The man explained to Mansa Song that a brank guild of only mages needed a tank to hold the line while they cast spells. The gate they aimed to clear was a high-tier brank, making it risky for a crank hunter like him. If the raid succeeded, the profit could top 500 million, and as the only tank, he'd earn 100 million. Hearing about the 100 million, Mansa Song was shocked. The man urged him to think carefully, despite his need for money, since he faced monsters alone. A high-tier brank gate could be deadly. Mansa Song said it was okay and told the man to arrange it. He had no choice. Next, Mansa Song stood before a massive ogre. Mansa Song confronted the huge ogre, and the mages ordered him to hold the line at all costs or everyone would die. Determined, Mansa Song felt the monster was already taunting him. He saw the ogre prepared to swing, so he raided himself. He blocked the blow with his sword as the monster kept attacking. Manhwa fought hard to block the attacks. He thought about the rent going up. The landlady had said both monthly and long-term leases were increasing, and she couldn't make exceptions if they couldn't pay next month. They'd have to leave. Manhwa struggled to keep his footing steady. He remembered another issue. Starting next month, the guild office rent would rise by 200,001. He fell to his knees. Then he recalled the doctor saying Jiho needed surgery soon. Riding his teeth, he refused to break. He swore that no matter what challenges came, he wouldn't give up easily. He stood up again. The monster kept attacking. Manhwa stayed determined for one reason. He was the family's leader. The monster stepped back, preparing a massive swing that broke Manhwa's sword and struck his side with force. The mages rushed to attack, ignoring him completely. They moved past him to continue the raid. Manhwa began to lose consciousness. He thought of his son Jiho apologizing for being a worthless father. At home, Ah-hyun struggled to understand growth. Unable to sleep, feeling close to a growth burnout. Then he got a call from Sango. He answered saying he was about to go to work, but stopped when he heard news about Manhwa. At the hospital, Manhwa lay unconscious. His wife held his hand, crying. Sango and Ah-hyun entered the room. In the ICU, they learned Manhwa had overworked himself as a mercenary to pay for his sick son's surgery. Sango felt a pang of guilt, wishing Manhwa had shared his struggles with them. He questioned if he was just an outsider to Manhwa. Ah-hyun spoke cautiously, then offered his help if it was welcome. He asked how much support would be sufficient. Sangho's mood lifted, but then he recalled that Ah-hyun was the Thunder Emperor, which sparked a new realization. After some thought, Sango respectfully turned down the offer. When Ah-hyun asked why, Sango explained that if he truly needed funds, he would have already sought Ah-hyun's aid, but he hadn't. He believed bringing someone like Ah-hyun, the Thunder Emperor, into their guild could improve his brother's circumstances. Ultimately, though, Manhwa viewed Ah-hyun not as the Thunder Emperor, but as their guild's youngest member. Choi Yongsik shared that Head just contacted the Brank Guild, where Mantis Yong served as a mercenary. Sango said head over immediately. He remarked that he wasn't sure if Manhwa was genuine or just obstinate. He noted that Manhwa often overthought things unnecessarily. Sango told Ah-hyun that accepting his help might let Manhwa down. Sango resolved to find a solution independently. As he walked off, Ah-hyun's words made him pause and glance back. Ah-hyun promised that rather than acting as the Thunder Emperor, He'd assist as the guild's youngest member. Inside the gate, hunters geared up for combat. They urged the crank hunters to quickly take the front lines. The hunters charged ahead, including Sango and Choi Yongsik. They faced skeletons wielding swords. The mages in the rear grumbled as they were pushed back. They instructed the front lines to prevent any monster breakthroughs. Sango struggled but affirmed He'd hold the line. Another mage complained when a skeleton slipped through to the back. They finally reached the boss room's entrance and took a brief rest. Choi Yongsik and Sango looked drained. Sango grasped the intensity of a Brank gate, exhausted from fighting just minor enemies. He was amazed that Manhwa could handle it alone. Someone nearby argued they should have hired a proper Brank tank. A female mage pointed out that if cranks couldn't even stand firm against regular monsters, defeating a boss was impossible. Another hunter worried they'd be annihilated. The guildmaster responded that they had no options, as hiring a Brank mercenary cost 300 million won, which they couldn't afford. A mage noted that last time a single crank mercenary managed fine, and now with two they held some hope of surviving. Still, he admitted feeling uneasy. Sango knew they were right. He questioned whether he could truly risk pushing forward. Sango imagined himself and Choi Yongsik getting hurt. A Gaian approached, looking utterly exhausted like a zombie. Choi Yongsik and Sango were stunned by his state and asked what He'd been doing. A Gaian asked if, for that day's boss raid, they'd trust him to lead the way. It seemed the main character had a plan. The battle resumed, with mages fighting skeletons while Choi Yongsik and Sango protected them. They wondered where the boss was, as only minions appeared. They speculated another hunter might have killed it, but that seemed unlikely, as the association would revoke the license of anyone caught doing so. No one would be foolish enough to take that chance. A mage suggested stopping for the day. When the guildmaster asked why, he explained that too many monsters had depleted his mana, and then already cleared most of the mobs. He proposed searching for the boss later after recovering mana, arguing it was pointless to fight when they weren't fit to win. The guildmaster understood he had mana for just 1 or 2 spells remaining, and to truly damage the boss it needed to be in a groggy state first, a task those crank adventurers couldn't handle. He sighed deeply and declared the raid would stop there for now. He informed the group they would return to face the boss on another day. Unbeknownst to them all, the gem embedded in the skull began to radiate brilliant light. As they walked toward the exit, a voice called out, asking if they were leaving so soon already. They turned around swiftly. Ahan remarked that this was merely the beginning of the fight. The guildmaster questioned what he was talking about, confused. Ahan casually gestured toward something odd. They noticed one skeleton pulling all the others toward itself. They stood in shock as the skeletons merged together, forming one colossal figure. It became a gigantic skeleton, a plus-rank boss monster unveiled at last. The true boss had finally revealed itself to them. The guildmaster swiftly ordered everyone to prepare their spells for a unified strike to end it quickly. They launched fire arrows, electric shocks, and an ice spear all at once in a coordinated assault. Every attack struck the boss perfectly, yet the monster remained completely unscathed. It lifted its massive weapon, ready to strike back at them. The mages panicked, their mana reserves already drained from earlier efforts. They believed this was surely their end. Ahayan shouted loudly that now was the critical moment to act. Choi Yongsik and Sun Tzu readied themselves instantly. They struck simultaneously, aiming with precision. The mages' jaws dropped in disbelief. Choi Yongsik and Sun Tzu focused their attacks on the skeleton's joints. Each strike landed with incredible accuracy, astounding the onlookers. The mages couldn't fathom what they were witnessing unfold. Those cranked fighters had somehow overpowered the mighty boss. They demanded to know what in the world had just occurred. Sun Tzu pressed his assault relentlessly forward. He recalled what the rookie had mentioned earlier that day. Previously, Ahayan had shared his detailed notes with them. Those notes contained sketches and diagrams. He had devised a strategy using data provided by the association. He explained that since it was his first attempt at planning for a subranked fight, he conducted thorough research. He recognized the boss was a giant skeleton due to its enormous stature. Each of its attacks carried tremendous force, but it moved sluggishly and slowly. Its vulnerabilities lay in the joints connecting its bones, which they planned to target precisely. He noted that since Seongo and Choi Yongsik excelled in speed, they could strike before the boss could launch its own attack effectively. Sun Tzu was astonished that the rookie compiled such research in just one night's time. Ahayan ascended to heaven, blushing, and said he's a writer at heart. He clarified he's only an aspiring one, but research is essential for any writer. Back in the present, Seongo expressed gratitude for the plan. Based on the notes reviewed before the attack, the boss always emitted a loud roar prior to striking. It was noted in Ahayan's records that when evading, they should dodge sideways to attract his aggression. Seongo followed the instructions precisely as written in the notes. It was also recorded that they must avoid moves that split its focus, and when striking they should concentrate entirely on the joints. Choi Yongsik attacked, naming his move Super Ultra Thunder Lightning Slash, bewildering the boss as the attack seemed ineffective initially. Moments later, the boss collapsed onto its knees. Ahayan signaled to Songjo by shouting it was time to act. They needed to finish the monster by hitting its core with maximum force to end the battle. Songjo aimed for the heart within the rib cage of the skeleton. He unleashed an X-slash attack with tremendous power. He poured all of his strength into it, but was pushed back forcefully. Both he and Choi Yongsik were stunned by the failure. Even Ihyun hadn't anticipated the attack being deflected so easily. Then Ihyun realized something critical. While watching the battle unfold, the giant skeleton launched an attack against them suddenly. Ihyun understood that strategy alone was merely a tool, and without sufficient raw power, they couldn't defeat the boss. The mages, gripped by fear, claimed their doom was certain. They knew this boss was never meant for crank fighters to handle. Ihyun saw he had no option but to intervene himself. Then he noticed Seongo standing tall, rallying Choi Yongsik to keep fighting. The Ihyun was unable to assist them further. As the Thunder Emperor swung his weapon, he reminded Yongsik of their usual strategy. He suggested Yongsik try something different this time. Ihyun knew it was the move they had been practicing daily. Songjo explained that even though others claimed Yongsik wasn't ready, they would unite their efforts to compensate for him. Yongsik nodded in agreement and offered to draw the enemy's attention. He insulted the giant skeleton, calling it a bonehead, and made a bold gesture with his middle finger. That was Yongsik's signature provocative move. Then Yongsik continued shouting, throwing insults like demanding it come closer so he could smash its skull, mocking its eyeless stumble. As expected, taunting the creature in such a brash way worked perfectly. The giant skeleton chased Yongsik. Yongsik shouted to Songjo, signaling it was his moment. Songjo wrapped chains around the skeleton's ankle and yanked hard. The skeleton stumbled and fell. Now was time for the final strike. Yongsik spun around to confront the boss monster. It was time for Manseseong's decisive blow. Songjo leaped into the air. He remarked that if it were Manseseong, he'd have shattered the core in one hit. But Songjo and Yongsik had to combine their efforts. Yongsik got ready. They launched their attacks in sync and the core finally split, causing the skeleton giant to unleash its last wail. A brilliant light flooded the battlefield. The giant skeleton was vanquished, slowly fading into nothing. The mages watched the boss disappear and cheered for their survival. Agin was amazed that Songjo and Yongsik had surpassed his plan, refusing to surrender even in dire straits. With their unique approach, they forged a new path to victory. Agin realized this was the essence of progress at the Shield Hospital. Meanwhile, Manseseong was dreaming of Jiho, who called him a worthless father. He gradually woke up, confused about his surroundings. He remembered he'd been trying to raise funds for Jiho's surgery. He felt he failed and labeled himself a pitiful idiot. Manseseong was at a loss for what to do next. Then the curtains parted, revealing Songjo, Agin, and Yongsik, who saw he was awake. Manseseong looked dejected. Songjo questioned if that was how a guild master should act, noting their concern for him. Manseseong apologized, but Songjo quickly shifted the conversation. Yongsik declared that Manseseong could now relax. Songjo shared that while Manseseong was unconscious, they'd made arrangements ensuring he no longer needed to stress about Jiho's surgery funds. Manseseong, confused, asked what they meant. His jaw dropped when he saw the account book, filled with earnings from Songjo, Agin, and Yongsik's mercenary jobs. The trio beamed with pride. Songjo explained that their mercenary wages plus extra earnings covered Jiho's surgery costs. Manseseong hesitated, saying he couldn't just accept it, surprising them. Songjo chided him for his reluctance. Manseseong clarified he wasn't refusing outright, but felt uneasy taking money they'd risked their lives for. Manseseong vowed to repay them. Yongsik brushed it off, saying they understood his circumstances and that was that. Manseseong insisted it was his burden to bear. A memory surfaced of a past moment when he and 3 others were drained from rushing through multiple gates daily. One of them explained they had no choice because Jianho was ill. Another warned that at this pace they, not Jiho, would break down. A third agreed, sharing the same concern. Then their vice guild master, Bolgam, also known as Richard Bear, stepped in and urged them to reconsider their approach. The team wondered how long they'd keep covering for the guild master's mistakes, noting that the guild's rank goals seemed out of reach. Everyone was struggling to keep up with the guild master's pace, exhausting themselves, getting hurt, and ending up in the hospital one after another. Richard Bear shared his plan to start a new guild because of this. Meanwhile, Manhwa overheard and felt guilty, blaming himself for the guild members leaving due to his selfish choices, which knocked back their dreams and left him unable to protect his family. He believed Head unfairly burdened 3 others and needed to handle his issues alone. Sungjo reassured Manhwa it wasn't his fault, pointing the blame at Richard Bear instead. Choi Young-sik agreed, and Ahayan vowed to keep supporting Manhwa. Manhwa was puzzled if Ahayan explained Head gotten feedback that his story's protagonist wasn't growing. Initially, he thought the protagonist, Anis, was progressing fine, gaining skills and strength. However, Ahayan realized true growth wasn't just about ranking up, a lesson he learned from his guild members. Manseseong wasn't fighting in gates for ranks, but to protect something dear and support the guild master, showing bravery beyond his level. Ahayan reflected that when he joined the guild, Head already seen Manseseong as his story's protagonist. Without this guild, he wouldn't have witnessed such growth. This convinced him to keep helping for Manhwa's development and the guild's future, leaving the old man speechless. Manseseong realized it wasn't all about him. Everyone supported each other. Head been so of pain that he only focused on himself. Smiling, he asked the group if it was okay to cause trouble. Sometimes moving forward, Suinju said Manhwa could make trouble as much as he wanted, and Ahayan added he could help as much as he liked. Though his sly smile made Manhwa nervous, as if he was plotting something elsewhere. A group of men battled a tough monster in a difficult raid. Doyen commanded them to hold formation and push forward. These hunters, unlike most, wore top-tier combat gear, but the pupluinged monster easily struck them as it prepared to fireball. Do Wang predicted the attack, and a man with a sturdy shield stepped up. The shield-bearer blocked the monster's flames and checked if Do Wang was okay. This was Tyson Jianhonki, and Srank Hunter and their top tank Do Wang confirmed he was fine, but despite using elite units, they were losing ground to the Srank boss monster Diablo. Do Wang urged Hyasun to protect the guild members, including Becky and Hyo. John, and Srank Healer, told Do Wang not to worry and to focus. Do Wang said he might have to risk his life this time, drawing his weapon and unleashing in Srank aura as Diablo readied another fireball. Do Wang and Diablo paused, noticing something in the sky like a god descending. Someone shouted, "Rayquaza, is that you?" A thunder wheel attack electrocuted the monster, sending debris flying. Do Wang steadied himself, amazed, saying he never thought Head lived to see such a moment. He hadn't anticipated such a significant moment would arrive. He mentioned that his grandson might appear rough on the surface, but he always knew the truth. He was glad the Thunder Emperor stepped in to help. However, the Thunder Emperor clarified it wasn't like that. He was there to request a favor from Do Wang. Do Wang playfully told him to just admit he helped in Korea. An airplane was preparing to touch down at the airport. With fans buzzing with excitement, a blond man stepped off and greeted them with a wave. He remarked it had been some time since his last visit to Korea. He had someone on his mind had been thinking about. A person named Sato Katsuya, one of the 12 legendary apostles. Shortly after, Do Wang shared how shocked he was by Katsuya's sudden arrival. Katsuya chuckled and said sorry. He placed the tea down. He explained that their association president had an urgent message to deliver. This led Park De-han to question how grave the situation must be for the Japanese association president to send an apostle. Park De-han was stunned to learn that destroyer Jaina had died. Katsuya confirmed that 2 of the 13 stars of the Azure Sky had been killed. Park De-han insisted it couldn't be true. The 13 stars of the Azure Sky were the 13th highest ranked hunters globally, just below the 12 apostles and nearly at legendary status. They were unquestionably among the most powerful. Included in those 13 stars was Do Wang. Park De-han then asked who could have possibly taken down those 2. Katsuya answered it was Black Spear. Katsuya figured Park De-han knew that Black Spear wasn't just involved in social and economic issues, but also in stirring international conflicts and recent global events. They all agreed Black Spear was behind it all. They declared that only the awakened were the true new humanity and non-awakened people were meant to be dominated. These extremists were responsible for massacres. Black Spear had been labeled a terrorist group by governments worldwide, with their dangerous beliefs under close watch. Katsuya noted they'd been monitoring them, But this event showed Black Spear was far more than just a terrorist organization. The Japanese Association president sent a message through Katsuya urging that, given these events, there should be no delay in combining their nation's forces. Park De-han casually shook his hands, saying they'd happily join forces. Katsuya mentioned that Park De-han could review the documents for details about the incident and the alliance. Then Katsuya shared that their association president was overly careful. Park De-han was puzzled. Katsuya said he could easily step in and take them all out himself. But for some reason, the president was so concerned. He asked if Park De-han agreed. In Park De-han's mind, only 12 people in the world could say something like that so confidently. Katsuya considered going to meet the person he'd been thinking about. Meanwhile, Munsa-ong's family and guild members were sharing a meal at the hospital. Sanjo decided to accompany him, and Mantis, Ong's wife, announced she'd go deliver medicine to Jiho. Munsa-song and Ah-hyun stayed behind, assisting each other with cleaning the table. Munsa-song remarked that the day was full of unexpected events when Ah-hyun asked why. Munsa explained that Du Huang had shown up at the hospital earlier, having heard about the situation from his grandson. Munsa-song shared that he never would have thought Du Huang was his grandfather. Ah-hyun corrected him, saying they weren't related. Munsa-song, puzzled because of Du Huang's claim, learned from Ah-hyun that it was just a figure of speech, not an injured relation. Munsa-song added that Du Huang's sudden appearance led to him and Jiho being moved to the VIP ward, with all remaining medical bills covered, prior payments refunded, and even an offer for a house. Ah-hyun got a call, and he remembered that the best way to show gratitude was to help Gawa Munsa-song thrive. Munsa-song planned to begin proper guild recruitment after Jiho's surgery. Ah-hyun, excited, promised to give his all while cleaning the table. He pondered what kind of adventure awaited this time. Suddenly, Ah-hyun sensed something unsettling. He glanced behind him. Munsa-song noticed and asked what was wrong. Ah-hyun said he had to step out briefly and would return soon. Munsa-song was stunned when Ah-hyun jumped out the window from several floors up. Ah-hyun landed in a forest. He scanned the area, wondering if someone was hiding their presence. Recognizing the energy, he sensed it behind him. He swiftly kicked, sending the figure flying, but they quickly reappeared behind Ah-hyun. Their clash shattered the ground around them. Ah-hyun blocked a punch and demanded to know what the person was up to. The figure remarked that Ah-hyun's skills remained sharp, expecting rust. It was Sato Katsuya who grinned and asked how Ah-hyun was doing. They caught up, and Sato Katsuya learned Ah-hyun had returned to research for a more realistic novel. Ah-hyun confirmed. Tired of repeating the explanation, Sato Katsuya noted that a hero of humanity vanishing and returning naturally sparked curiosity. He was surprised by Ah-hyun, recalling him as unmotivated, treating everything like a burden. Ah-hyun admitted a lot had changed and said he was enjoying himself. He felt more driven to write even better. Sato Katsuya, observing Ah-hyun's expression, saw a shift in him. He encouraged Ah-hyun to keep writing and not quit. When Sato Katsuya stood to leave, Ah-hyun asked if he was going already. Sato Katsuya said he had other matters to handle and had only dropped by, adding that as long as Ah-hyun remained the Thunder Emperor, they'd meet again soon. Ah-hyun was confused by Sato Katsuya's words. The next day, De-han gazed out his window, thinking about the news that 2 of the 13 stars had died, leaving the 12 apostles as the only ones able to stop Black Spear. But when he discussed it with Ah-hyun, Ah-hyun seemed uninterested, calling it a hassle and suggesting Sato Katsuya could handle it. Since they'd finished that month's tasks, Ah-hyun proposed dealing with it later. This made De-han worry whether the Thunder Emperor would step up, especially if Ah-hyun finished his research and retired again. De-han was certain the madman would go through with it. He yelled no desperately, pleading for anything other than retirement. His wild behavior made him seem unhinged, so much that his secretary hesitated to step into his office. When De-han finally settled down, his secretary entered and asked if he was calm now. De-han brushed it off, claiming he was just practicing his voice. He then asked for the day's report. His secretary shared that the hunters had released their ranking of top rookie prospects, with a hunter from their country claiming first place. De-han guessed it was the demonic sword. His secretary confirmed and asked if he already knew. De-han replied that among all the rookies he knew, demonic sword was the finest demonic sword. Cho Sung-woo was the most discussed hunter in Korea lately. A prodigy, he achieved rank faster than anyone, wielding one of the 7 mythic grade weapons, the strongest since the Great Gate era, called Dark Moon. Dahan recalled that only 2 Dark Moon contractors in history had ever reached legendary rank, and if demonic sword hit that level it would be monumental. Dahan got carried away imagining Korea boasting 2 legendary hunters. He declared it would make Korea the top-ranked nation globally. With him as the leading association chairman, you could already picture the Indian chairman seething in defeat. Plus, they'd no longer depend only on the Thunder Emperor, freeing Dahan from his unpredictable demands. As Dahan laughed wildly, something grabbed his secretary's attention. Dahan went on about the guy who kept threatening to retire out of nowhere, saying he'd finally be done with him. Unbeknownst to him, Ae-hyun was standing right behind. Ae-hyun asked what he planned to do. Dahan's face drained of color, realizing his mistake. Ae-hyun teased him further, urging him to keep talking since I was curious. Dahan scrambled to cover up his blunder. Meanwhile, outside the association building, someone questioned why another person was there when training time was scarce. The person gazing at the building explained that reaching rank meant dealing with all kinds of registrations, requiring at least 1 association visit. Another voice noted the young man had grown a lot but reminded him that to be a true warrior of the sword, he needed to grow even stronger. The speaker was a black sword with a red gem at its core. It declared that when the young man could fully harness its power, he'd be unstoppable, achieving everything he desired, mainly revenge. Then he noticed Dahan chasing Ae-hyun, trying to explain himself as they playfully interacted while passing by. The sword sensed something odd. It spotted Ae-hyun and couldn't believe it. Someone like him. The young man asked the sword what was wrong. The sword explained that the man who just passed by had recognized it and was an absolute monster, someone it should never confront. The young man observed Ae-hyun, noting he sensed nothing from him, but the Dark Moon had never spoken like that before. If that man is truly a monster. Dark Moon grew anxious as Choi Sung-woo approached Ae-hyun. Choi Sung-woo viewed Ae-hyun as a valuable asset for his development. He started to unsheath his sword, but Dark Moon urged him to stay calm. Yet he aimed the blade at Ae-hyun's neck and challenged Ae-hyun to a duel. Our boy turned to see who this unknown person was suddenly threatening him with a sword. Ae-hyun brushed the sword away and declined the offer. Choi Sung-woo was shocked that this guy dismissed Dark Moon so casually. Typically, just touching Dark Moon's mana would render someone unconscious, making Ae-hyun clearly unique. Choi Sung-woo pressed, but Ae-hyun was already irritated. He questioned who this person was, appearing out of nowhere and demanding a fight. Choi Sung-woo took it as Ae-hyun dismissing the weak. He removed his hood and revealed himself as Choi Sung-woo, the demonic sword. Assuming Ae-hyun knew of him, Ae-hyun simply said he didn't care if he was the demonic sword or a job of Machiavelli. Since Ae-hyun was busy, he told him to leave, but Hyun realized this was indeed the real demonic sword. It puzzled him why a beast like Choi Sung-woo would suddenly challenge the Thunder Emperor. Then it clicked. For a hunter to progress, it needed a pivotal moment. It varies for everyone, but typically, battling a stronger foe sparks it. 1 fight wouldn't suffice. But Daehoon knew that with the demonic sword, even a brief clash could yield tremendous growth. He stopped Ae-hyun from walking away. He reminded him of this month's pending request. Ae-hyun responded and Park Dayan explained that's why Ae-hyun visited the association today. But Ae-hyun shrugged it off. Poking at the chairman's behavior, he admitted he embarrassed himself earlier. So he'd keep his request simple. Ae-hyun sighed and asked what he wanted. Park Dayan's request was for Ae-hyun to Choi Sung-woo. Park Dayan led them to the association's top sparring arena. Designed to contain shockwaves, the area was fortified with numerous barriers, unbreakable even by its rank or stronger, so the two could fight without restraint. They could go all out. Meanwhile, Choi Sung-woo thought the guy seemed familiar. He realized it was the chairman, yet the chairman was bending over backward for Ae-hyun. Piqued his curiosity about Ae-hyun's deal. They entered the arena, and Choi Sung-woo expected answers soon. The chairman told them to prepare. He signaled the start. Choi Sung-woo struck instantly. Ae-hyun sidestepped, dodging the blade. Choi Sung-woo thought someone like Ae-hyun was just a warm-up for him. He slashed again, surprised, thinking he'd hit, but Ae-hyun evaded effortlessly, making him realize he should have unleashed Dark Moon fully from the beginning. Dark Moon echoed its earlier claim that this guy's a monster. It announced synchronization had begun at 12, climbing to 34, then 47 IA. Hyun noticed Choi Sung-woo's speed increasing. Synchronization hit 54, and the sword emitted a red beam. Park Dahan remarked that the mana exceeded his predictions. He witnessed the demonic sword's true might. Choi Sung-woo kept pouring more aura into the blade. He declared this time would be different. Park Dahan felt the Thunder Emperor couldn't remain unfazed against the demonic sword. Choi Sung-woo's attack closed in, and he managed to cut a strand of Ia Hyun's hair. Ia Hyun dodged Choi Sung-woo's attack by twisting his body. Noticing that Choi Sung-woo's strikes were growing stronger, Choi Sung-woo paused, turned to face Ia Hyun again and kept swinging his sword. But Ia Hyun easily avoided every blow. Choi Sung-woo's frustration mounted as he couldn't land a single hit, feeling like Ia Hyun was completely out of reach. Choi Sung-woo was panting heavily, stunned by the vast gap in their skills. Ia Hyun calmly asked if he was ready to give up, looking completely unfazed. Choi Sung-woo ordered Dark Moon to boost their synchronization. Dark Moon warned him that had already hit his limit, but Choi Sung-woo insisted it was time to push beyond it. Dark Moon agreed, but cautioned Choi Sung-woo that losing consciousness during synchronization could let its power consume his soul. Their synchronization climbed to 58, and Choi Sung-woo began transforming. He let out a loud scream, releasing black lightning. Using a skill called Black Moon, he summoned a tornado of black lightning that resembled a dark moon taking shape. Park Dahan watched in awe. Choi Sung-woo declared that Ia Hyun wouldn't escape this time. His power focused in the swirling lightning. He swung his sword with a powerful slash. Ia Hyun, impressed, decided to reveal a bit of his own strength. Choi Sung-woo was shocked to see lightning spark from Ia Hyun's fingertips, which he used to counter the attack by unleashing his own lightning. Choi Sung-woo's aura was overwhelmed by Ia Hyun's lightning, which broke through the blackened mist tornado. A massive explosion followed, so intense the Han outside the facility felt its force. The defense barrier was shattered, and Choi Sung-woo dropped to his knees, scoffing before bursting into laughter. Choi Sung-woo admitted he never suspected the man before him was the Thunder Emperor. The next day, at a cafe, Choi Sung-woo pleaded with Ia Hyun to take him as a disciple. Ia Hyun, busy on his laptop, refused. Choi Sung-woo stood there, persisting with his pleas, explaining he had a desperate reason to grow stronger. Choi Sung-woo rambled about his tragic past, which left Ia Hyun unmoved. He shared that his younger brother, a highly talented hunter, was nearly abducted by a sinister group. At that moment, Dark Moon appeared, offering power in a dramatic deal. After many hardships, Choi Sung-woo narrowly saved his brother. But since that day, his brother has remained unresponsive, as if his soul had vanished. Choi Sung-woo vowed to destroy the organization responsible and find a way to save his brother, believing he needed to grow stronger. Ia Hyun, unsurprised, remarked that hearing the same story for a week would make anyone memorize it. Ia Hyun pointed out that Choi Sung-woo had been repeating himself for days. He assured Choi Sung-woo he was already strong and would grow even more with a few years' experience. Choi Sung-woo slammed his hands on the table, shouting that waiting years was too long, drawing the cafe crowd's attention. Choi Sung-woo explained that despite reaching strength just 2 years after awakening, he knew climbing higher required learning from someone far stronger. Through their spark, he felt Ia Hyun's unmatched power. He insisted the Thunder Emperor was his only hope, as his brother still lay in a hospital bed, had reached my limit, and told him to stop. Ia Hyun felt sorry for him, but explained that his main job keeps him too busy to take him in. Choi Sung-woo asked what he meant by his main job. Ia Hyun shared that being a hunter is just something he does on the side. Ia Hyun ran widely as he revealed he's a web novel writer. Choi Sung-woo was stunned. At dusk, he watched Ia Hyun walk away. Confused, he didn't understand why Ia Hyun would set aside all that power and fame just to write. Meanwhile, Choi Sung-woo felt desperate. Dark Moon said he gets it, describing it as a lonely race where Ia Hyun is far ahead, with no one to catch up or chase him. If Ia Hyun kept running alone on that path and saw no one beside him, it would feel hollow and lonely. Choi Sung-woo called it the solitude of the strongest. Dark Moon said it's just a guess, but there were others like that in the past. People so exceptional they lost their purpose in life. Meanwhile, Ie Hyun got irritated and asked Choi Sung-woo if he was following him to his house. They stood in front of a convenience store and Ie Hyun pointed out it was his home. Choi Sung-woo said he wouldn't be that bold, but then his stomach growled loudly. Embarrassed, he asked if Choi Sung-woo was hungry. I invited him to stay for dinner. Choi Sung-woo eagerly agreed. When asked about his gorilla sister, Yoon said she's working late. Ie Hyun was relieved as he nearly showed her something she shouldn't see. Their mother scolded Ie Hyun for calling his sister a gorilla. Ie Hyun shrugged, saying he's just calling in as he sees it. Ie Hyun got smacked. Their father chuckled, but noticed Choi Sung-woo was frozen in place. He realized he'd shamelessly tagged along. Ie Hyun's father told him not to feel uneasy and to eat comfortably. Choi Sung-woo thanked them for their kindness. Ie Hyun's father asked if Choi Sung-woo was close to Ie Hyun since it's the first time Ie Hyun run a friend home. Ie Hyun said they're not really friends, and Choi Sung-woo is just someone he met by chance. Lee Jun sighed, saying it's a strange way to introduce the demonic sword. Ie Hyun was shocked that he knew him. Lee Jun said the demonic sword is a big topic lately. Their mother placed a sunny-side-up egg on Choi Sung-woo's rice. Choi Sung-woo thanked her, but she said there's no need. She told him if he's Ie Hyun's friend, he's practically family and can stop by whenever he's hungry. Choi Sung-woo looked sad but thanked her for the meal. Ie Hyun asked for an egg, but his mother said he has to be cute to get one. Their father just laughed. Choi Sung-woo remembered how his own family used to have fun meals together. He realized it had been a while since he had a homemade meal. He smiled, saying it was delicious, but stopped when he saw their surprised faces. Lee Jun didn't realize he was already crying, and then he cried more. He tried to apologize, but Ie Hyun cut him off, saying the kimchi stew was too spicy. Lee Jun added that it was spicy enough to make him tear up. Their father agreed, and their mother apologized to Choi Sung-woo for messing up the spice level. She went to get water. Choi Sung-woo had a warm smile. Afterward, Ie Hyun walked him out. Choi Sung-woo thanked him for the meal. Ie Hyun said, "There's no need to thank him." Choi Sung-woo's expression softened as he shared it had been a long time since he felt a family's warmth. He had one more thing to say but paused. Ie Hyun was puzzled why he stopped. But Choi Sung-woo was thinking about those few who lost their purpose because they were too exceptional. He didn't finish his thought and just said he was caught up in his head. Then he left. Ie Hyun wondered if he was too cold, but decided to let it go since he had his issues to handle. He answered a call from Sungjo. Dark Moon asked Choi Sung-woo if he's giving up on being his disciple. Choi Sung-woo said he could no longer be a burden. He overheard Ie Hyun mention guild recruitment and glanced at him, sparking an idea that it was too early to quit. On the guild interview day, they summoned the first applicant. Sungjo asked him to introduce himself. The man wore a yellow suit with a blue coat over it. He sported yellow sunglasses and called himself Choi Hoon, a man faster than light. Jaegekid recognized him from One Piece. Sungjo noted his confidence. Munsa Song reviewed his file, seeing his strength was speed, but his special skill was weak, so he rejected him. Next, a young adult claimed he had sealed a dark flame dragon in his arm. I'm unsure who this reference is, so please share your thoughts below. He boasted that if unleashed, the crimson flame would pale in comparison. Sungjo pointed out his head was ablaze. The next applicant resembled Deku from My Hero Academia and said that though awakened, he could become an rank hero if hired. Sungjo told him he was in the wrong genre. The next person was rejected, as was another who claimed to be a secret disciple of the Thunder Emperor. Munsa Song said it was driving him mad as no decent applicants appeared on the first day. Munsa Song asked about a Haiyan, and Sungjo guessed he was sleeping after writing all night. Sungjo planned to reach out to a Haiyan later and proceed with interviews. Seeing the next applicant's file, he nudged Munsa Song to look. Munsa Song asked what it was and was shocked. Choi Yongsik announced the next applicant, a massive man. Leaving both speechless, they wondered why a Brank was there. This huge man carried a weapon and introduced himself as Nam Dopal. Munsa Song asked why a Brank was there. Dopal was direct, asking about their pay. Grinning oddly, Sungjo whispered to Munsa Song about the guild's image. A guild's rank hinges on its highest ranked member, so some paid top hunters heavily to join, exploiting a loophole. Dopal acted superior, saying such chances were rare and urging them to finalize it, implying he'd be the guild's paid. Mansa Song said they'd wrap it up. Dopal liked his directness, but Mansa Song rejected him. Dopal grew furious. Mansa Song stood firm, pointing him to the door. Dopal then smashed the table, angrily calling Mansa Song and threatening them. Upal shouted, asking if they wanted to die. Choi Yongsik checked in, furious. Someone behind him asked if the person inside was out. Choi Yongsik said the mood made it clear. Recognizing the newcomer, Choi Yongsik was stunned. Mansa Song clarified to the man that they had no use for such trash and told him to leave. Dopal screamed, "Head, kill him." Someone grabbed his hammer. Termini couldn't budge it and asked who the person was. Choi Songhwa told him to go home quietly. Dopal wondered who he was, then realized it was the demonic sword. Mansa Song and Samjo were shocked and confused by his presence. Choi Songhwa lowered his hood, saying he was there for an interview, and sat on the couch. Everyone was stunned. Later, Mansa Song learned the demonic sword needed to grow stronger to find a cure for his ill sibling. After achieving ace rank, Choi Songhwa faced a major obstacle. He encountered a Hyen and chose to join the guild. Choi Songhwa shared that his time was limited because his sibling was alone in the hospital. Songjo quietly asked the boss why he was hesitating when he should reject Choi Songhwa outright. He warned that allowing the demonic sword into their guild would elevate them to S rank, which they weren't equipped to manage. Songjo continued, saying that associating with someone like Choi Songhwa would cause endless problems, not just with the gates. He noted that the young man's hesitation showed he understood this too. Choi Songhwa pleaded with them. Mansa Song, looking at him, remembered his own desperation when he took on a B-rank mission for his family's sake. Mansa Song didn't want a young person to face the same reckless choices he had. He decided to accept Choi Songhwa. Songjo was shocked and asked if the boss had lost his mind. Mansa Song explained that Songjo had previously convinced him about a Hyen Su. Songjo argued it was due to his circumstances. Mansa Song said that was enough, chose to call the demonic sword by his name, and welcomed him. They shook hands, and Choi Songhwa promised to give his all. Mansa Song shared that he also had a sick son, so he understood Choi Songhwa's desperation. He offered help whenever Choi Songhwa needed it. Then, like a dramatic police officer, a Hyen burst in, apologizing for his tardiness. Looking like head just rolled out of bed. A Hyen asked if everything was already done. Mansa Song called him rookie, but said he wasn't the youngest anymore since they had a new member. A Hyen noticed Choi Songhwa introducing himself and shouted, asking why he was there. That day, Mansa Song's rank climbed to Srank, but the guild descended into disorder. Choi Songhwa was thrilled at the chance to train with the Thunder Emperor's elite. He was eager to learn new skills. The demonic sword stood alone, full of excitement. Suddenly, Mansa Song sprinted forward, shouting it was time to strike. Yongsik agreed, and they all launched their attack together. Songjo unleashed his quick slash. Yongsik followed suit, and Mansa Song aimed to end it with a downward strike, but they missed the monster, which was too fast. A cute pink bunting of the horn. They shouted to Choi Songhwa that it was heading his way. The monster got frightened when Choi Songhwa merely stared at it. He observed the trio, wondering what he was witnessing. Choi Songhwa questioned if that was supposed to be a fight. Head heard they defeated a rank boss, but he found their skills laughable. He wondered why the Thunder Emperor joined such a guild. He recalled asking a Hyen why he picked this guild when he could have researched elsewhere. He couldn't grasp why a Hyen insisted on this crank guild. A Hyen simply said it had to be this one. Choi Songhwa called it a vague response for a writer. A Hyen countered that being a writer didn't mean he was great with words. Then Daehoon texted him about an Srank Gate appearing in Brazil. It was urgent, so a Hyen had to leave immediately. He told Choi Songhwa to see for himself. Handing over his notebook and pen, he asked Choi Songhwa to handle the research and guild. Meanwhile, a blade flew and Yongsik's sword broke. He shook and cried out for Maria. Yongsik had even named his sword Maria. Choi Songhwa watched as Yongsik was consoled by Siamjo, Manseziong, and even a monster. Choi Songhwa felt foolish for having expectations. But since a Hyen entrusted him with the guild, he approached his seniors, asked if they had time, and invited them for an upgrade. A few hours later, the group visited a massive mall, home to the famous Hunter department store. Yongsik pointed excitedly at the statue of the Thunder Emperor, sharing his lifelong dream of meeting him just once. Choi Songhwa, surprised, turned to Choi Songhwa, who asked Manseziong if he was aware of this. Manseziong chuckled. Noting that Yongsik had always been a bit oblivious, Manseziong expressed gratitude toward Choi Songwoo. Manseziong admitted he never imagined receiving a guild rank-up celebration fund, especially one worth a staggering 10 billion won, equivalent to about $6.7 million. Even he would be floored by such a sum. Choi Songwoo brushed off the thanks, suggesting Manseziong simply see it as compensation for welcoming him into the guild. Choi Songwoo came to understand that the Thunder Emperor's reasons for joining the guild were irrelevant. What truly mattered was keeping the Thunder Emperor by his side. Choi Songwoo grinned and suggested they explore the weapons section. Moments later, Yongsik was being overly dramatic, claiming a weapon was calling out to him and wondering if it was the legendary ego sword. Sunjo, gripping a massive sword, pondered whether this could be an opportunity to switch up his fighting style. Manseziong, holding an axe, inquired if it was the least expensive option. The group had chosen their weapons and prepared to pay, but Choi Songwoo let out a sigh and told them to put everything back. They looked at him like children about to lose their favorite toys. Choi Songwoo was at a loss for where to begin. He started with Yongsik, explaining that a department store would never carry something as rare as an ego sword. Yongsik stubbornly insisted he could hear the weapon's voice. Then Choi Songwoo turned to Sunjo, calling his choice an impulsive decision. Warning that a heavy sword would hinder his agility, he jokingly asked the guild master if he planned to chop firewood with that axe. Manseziong defended his choice, saying it was the most cost-effective. Yongsik, undeterred, said he still liked his pick, even if it wasn't an ego sword. Sunjo also stood by his sword, claiming it suited him perfectly. He argued that spending more on weapons would make someone stronger. Choi Songwoo warned that with that attitude, it remained stuck at crank forever. He stressed that while talent was key for hunters, proper gear was just as critical. They asked him to hold on. Sunjo admitted he couldn't speak for the others, but insisted Head fought his choice through carefully. He recounted how during a Brank boss gate raid, they nearly died due to lacking a strong finishing move, so he chose a weapon to address that weakness. Choi Songwoo was skeptical, questioning how they even managed such a feat with their skill level, as defeating a Brank boss seemed beyond them. Yongsik took offense, demanding to know what Choi Songwoo meant by that. Yongsik shouted that despite appearances, they were capable fighters. Sunjo calmly said it was reasonable to question their claim, given that a crank guild took down a Brank boss. Yongsik admitted he was stunned at the time, too, adding that without a Hyen's help, it would have been impossible. Choi Songwoo felt a pang of guilt, suspecting these hunters were taking credit for the Thunder Emperor's victory. In his mind, Choi Songwoo saw them as parasites clinging to the Thunder Emperor's success. He sighed inwardly, baffled by why someone as great as the Thunder Emperor stayed with such weak companions. Choi Songwoo announced Head select weapons better suited to each of them. The trio, confused by his sudden shift in mood, wondered if they'd done something to upset him. Bulgum was also in the store, the same guy who had flown at top speed the last time they saw him, now acting smug and overconfident. He overheard Sunjo, Ong, and Yongsik discussing what might have angered Choi Songwoo, whose expression had turned intimidating. Yongsik suggested Choi Songwoo was looking down on the Manses, yelling brushed it off as a misunderstanding, saying they'd sort it out later. Richard Bear approached and mocked them, asking why a group of losers was there. The group bristled at Bulgum's hostility. Manses Songwoo decided they should leave, as seeing Bulgum's face had soared his mood. Bulgum sneered, saying trash like them didn't belong in a place like that anyway. Yongsik, oddly, greeted Bulgum in return. Bulgum welcomed Choi Yongsik warmly, but Manses Songwoo wondered why Choi Yongsik approached them. Bulgum gave Choi Yongsik a friendly pat, praising his politeness for saying hello first. Choi Yongsik admitted he once admired Bulgum greatly, but now saw him as someone who had fallen far and had become worthless. Choi Yongsik confronted Bulgum, saying he knew all about the gate change incident where Bulgum left his guild behind to save himself, betraying those who relied on him, yet still claimed the title of guild master. Enraged, Bulgum nearly struck Choi Yongsik, calling him arrogant, but someone intervened, stopping his fists, surprising Bulgum. Manses Songwoo shared that his greatest life regret was not cutting ties with Bulgum earlier. He grabbed Bulgum and threw him to the ground, causing Bulgum to groan in pain. Bulgum retorted that Mance's Songwoo was still clueless and boasted that he wasn't some low-ranking hunter like Mance's Songwoo. Bulgum warned that manager Yongsik should regret crossing him, a member of the prestigious Brank Alima Guild. A man questioned Mance's Songwoo's actions toward his guildmate, introducing himself as Choi Dong-hoon, the Brank Alima Guild master. Meanwhile, Choi Songwoo examined the sword. Noting its suitable length and balanced weight, a notepad slipped from Choi Songwoo's pocket, a gift from the Thunder Emperor. Inside, he found a drawing of a giant skeleton, outlining a strategy for defeating a Brank boss. He wondered why the Thunder Emperor needed to document it. Suspecting others were exploiting the Emperor's efforts. Reading further, Choi Songwoo learned Haiyan wrote that his strategy failed, but Choi Songwoo and Choi Yongsik stepped in with their own plan. The notepad detailed their counterattack, starting with disrupting the boss and then striking its core together. Ultimately, Choi Songwoo and Choi Yongsik defeated the Brank boss through their own ingenuity, as noted in the memo. Haiyan wondered if this showed true growth and anticipated future challenges with excitement. Choi Songwoo, realizing Head misjudged them, was startled by a loud crash. Turning, Choi Songwoo saw Munsa Song on the ground. Dong-hoon accused Munsa Song of insulting an Alima Guild member, grabbing his neck and belittling him as a mere crank. Munsa Song insisted it was a misunderstanding. As his store staff rushed over to investigate the disturbance, the store supervisor warned Dong-hoon that causing trouble, even as a VIP, was unacceptable, noting the store's ties to the Hunter Association, which could complicate matters. Dong-hoon apologized but blamed Munsa Song, claiming he started it. Dong-hoon accused the crank Munsa Song of boldly insulting his guild member, who was just minding their own business. He then pressured the staff, hinting that VIP treatment affects their performance reviews and implying they should prioritize him over low-ranking hunters. The staff, speechless, offered no defense. Dong-hoon expressed confidence that the staff would handle it fairly. Sungjeo protested that the Alima Guild started the conflict, but the staff ignored him, seemingly favoring the higher-ranked group due to their status. The staff warned that if they didn't cooperate, they'd contact the Hunter Police. Munsa Song, Choi Young-sik, and Sungjeo were stunned. Bulgum insulted them as worthless idiots. Someone then said they understood the situation. Everyone looked at the speaker. Choi Sung-woo explained that they were being told to accept unfair treatment just because their rank was low. Choi Sung-woo clarified that they weren't crank. Richard Bear was puzzled. Dong-hoon questioned if they really weren't crank. Richard Bear insisted the guild was crank. Bull grabbed a kid's shoulder, asking why he appeared suddenly, and spoke nonsense. Choi Sung-woo ripped Bulgum's wrist tightly. Choi Sung-woo told Bulgum he'd soon see if he was lying, so he should wait. Richard Bear was shocked by the marks on his wrist. He wondered how strong this guy was. Choi Sung-woo told the staff to verify the guild's information. The administrator quickly complied. Someone said there was no need to check. Munsa Song confirmed they were crank. He lowered his head and apologized for the trouble. Munsa Song said they'd handle their business quietly and leave soon. Choi Sung-woo was confused. He asked the guild master what he meant. He told him he didn't have to accept absurd accusations and that he was supporting him. Munsa Song replied that Choi Sung-woo's help would surely resolve things easily, but Munsa Song clarified that the rank belonged only to Choi Sung-woo, not them. He said the same about Haiyan. They could support each other's growth. But Munsa Song refused to behave like someone who brags about something false. Choi Sung-woo realized his mistake. He felt guilty for misjudging them. Munsa Song suggested they leave. Sungjeo followed along. Choi Sung-woo saw that he was the one obsessed with rank and missed the truth. Dong-hoon shouted at the cranks to leave or face consequences that irritated Choi Sung-woo. He tripped Dong-hoon, who fell flat on his face. Choi Sung-woo grabbed Dong-hoon's neck. He warned that moving would bring trouble. Munsa Song was stunned. Choi Sung-woo declared that anyone threatening the guild master in his presence would be dealt with. Choi Sung-woo, concerned, asked if it was okay to help that much. Munsa Song was unsure how to respond. Richard Bear pulled out a blade, shouting for them to die. He lunged at Choi Sung-woo from behind. Munsa Song tackled him. Richard Bear hit the ground. Munsa Song asked Choi Sung-woo for a bit of help. Richard Bear yelled at the store staff for standing idle. He demanded they act fast, handle the group, and call the Hunter Police. A store staff asked Richard Bear if he was okay. Richard Bear snapped that he wasn't, urging the staff to remove those pests immediately. But the administrator ignored Richard Bear. He apologized to Choi Sung-woo. Mentioning the demonic sword, Richard Bear and Dong-hoon were shocked. Choi Sung-woo said he understood but wanted something in return. Choi Sung-woo tossed Dong-hoon, who crashed into Richard Bear. Choi Sung-woo told the staff to clean up the mess properly. He then invited the seniors to leave. Dong-hoon ran after them, apologizing profusely to the demonic sword. Choi Sung-woo ignored him. Instead, he told his seniors had already chosen a weapon. They walked past the Thunder Emperor's statue. The demonic sword still didn't understand why the Thunder Emperor was tied to that guild. But he was sure of one thing: his thoughts were interrupted when someone called out. Choi Yong-sik asked if the sword he picked was really not an ego sword. Mun Sa-song scolded him for talking nonsense again. Yong mentioned that he distinctly heard a voice, prompting teasing from others who joked that even an ego sword has standards. Choi Sung-woo's laughter was adorable, and he found the guild intriguing. At the guild's office, Song assumed a deliverman brought the weapons they ordered, but it turned out to be a letter. He opened it with suspicion. Song was stunned when he read the letter's contents over the phone. Koo Kyungmo told Ahayan that his recent writing had become engaging. Ahayan was thrilled to hear Koo Kyungmo suggest that with the script for upcoming episodes secured, they could aim for the next phase. When Ahayan inquired further, Koo Kyungmo explained that he was referring to the launch evaluation, which left Ahayan speechless. Koo Kyungmo clarified that since the platform conducts the evaluation, they'd need to wait for the results. But the company's internal feedback was very positive. Ahayan promised to keep writing, and Koo Kyungmo encouraged him. After the call, Ahayan was overjoyed as it meant his writing had resonated. Though it was only an evaluation, it marked significant progress. Ahayan resolved to maintain his momentum until the launch. He worked until dusk. Then night fell. Dark circles formed under his eyes that he hadn't written a word. He realized he'd exhausted all recent guild events for material and had nothing left for the next episode. He wished something noteworthy would happen at the association building to inspire him. Diane sighed, frustrated, saying it was driving him mad. He couldn't believe it was already time for that chaotic feast again. The biennial Top 10 Guilds banquet in South Korea, where the top guilds gather to promote cooperation. However, the banquet had lost its original intent and become a stage for power struggles and rivalries. Now on the battlefield, it left Diane to mediate and clean up the mess. Just thinking about it upset his stomach. He didn't even understand why the association continued hosting it. Ultimately, the four great guilds would steal the spotlight. YMS Guild, non-target, had appeared, but it wasn't enough to challenge the decades-long dominance of South Korea's top four guilds. Diane reviewed the lists, seeing the same names and rankings repeatedly, which bored him. Then something caught his eye, sparking his interest and making him smile. He thought this year's event would be exciting. He instructed Secretary Wu to begin preparations for the banquet. Curious, Secretary Wu noted that the chairman usually despised the event, but the chairman replied that this year's banquet felt unique. What Diane noticed was that Gawa Mun Sa-song was listed at the guild building. Do-won gazed out a window, remarking how fast time had passed. Another man, meditating, read the letter and said it was perfect timing to catch up with everyone. This guild master resembled a monk holding his beads. He remarked that it was time to face those repulsive people again. In a garden, someone hoped the banquet would bring a worthy opponent to test his new sword. Another person, walking the street after dealing with others in an alley, cursed and said she didn't want to attend, tossing the invitation aside. Sunjo, Mun Sa-song, and Choi Yong-sik read the invitation to South Korea's Top 10 Guilds banquet. Choi Yong-sik questioned if they were really going, while Sunjo wondered if it was real and not a dream. They were shocked to learn they ranked 6th. Mun Sa-song paled, wondering how things had spiraled so far. He's only a crank, so he couldn't picture himself attending. Sunjo mentioned that the guild master would be dining with Srank hunters. Mun Sa-song imagined himself as the meal, paying the price for overstepping. He passed out. Sunjo and Choi Yong-sik were shocked to see him collapse and rushed to help him. Choi Sung-woo chuckled, saying there's never a calm day. Lee-hyun nodded and Sunjo noted it's convenient since Lee-hyun could gather material for his writing at the banquet. Sunjo recalled that the Thunder Emperor had attended before. Choi Sung-woo remarked it had been a while since Lee-hyun went, But seeing Ihyun's disgusted expression, Ihyun firmly declared he wouldn't return. He sat at the table, looking uninterested. People discussed his accomplishments, mentioned his role among the 12 apostles. Expecting him to be the world's strongest hunter, Ihyun seemed annoyed. He didn't understand what being the strongest hunter meant or why they were so thrilled about it. They raised a toast. Ihyun, bored, grimaced as he recalled that moment and said he wasn't going. Manhwa Song also refused to attend. Everyone turned to him. He radiated a dark vibe upon hearing Ihyun was skipping the banquet and questioned why they thought the guild reached rank. He asked who they thought was behind Gawa Manhwa Song's 6th place ranking in Korea's guilds. He insisted that, like it or not, they had to attend the banquet. His terrifying presence loomed. He asked again if they were refusing. The two, frightened, trembled, hugged each other and agreed to go. Manhwa Song called it a wise decision. Ihyun recalled past events he disliked but felt resigned. Since things had reached that point, he figured he might as well attend and find writing inspiration. The banquet started and guests arrived. They shook a man's hand, expressing eagerness to work together. All rank guilds joined the crowd and the media team went crazy. Rank guilds began entering. They hadn't thought of them. Parthenam, the 2nd guild, followed by 9 Dragons in 4th. Limitless Guild, 3rd, and Non-Target Guild, 5th, also appeared. The media team whispered that rank guilds carried a unique presence. They noted that the turn's rising fame, Non-Target's position seemed stronger than ever. Still, another guild arrived, led by Du Huang with several members. This was Guardian Gate Guild. The media found them awe-inspiring as they held the top rank with 4 rank hunters. No surprise, they're dubbed the kings of Korea's hunter world. Then a car pulled up. Manhwa Song scolded Choi Yongsik for his driving. Manhwa Song wished head driven instead. Choi Yongsik explained head just gotten his license and wanted to try. Choi Yongsik teased that protagonists always arrive late. Manhwa Song, irritated, sarcastically thanked Choi Yongsik for making him the star. Manhwa Song noticed the crowd's shocked stares. He asked Sungjo if they were so late that everyone was gaping. Sungjo replied there's no way they were staring because they were protagonists. Some onlookers murmured, saying it had been a while since they'd seen something so amusing. The guild masters of Parthenon and 9 Dragons were discussing whether a group was the new rank guild. The Parthenon guildmaster questioned if those individuals were bold or simply reckless. Guardian Gate had held the top rank for 50 years, their pride equally strong. Since it was an official event, the first banquet in 2 years, entering last and stealing attention from Guardian Gate was almost like declaring war. When they saw the Sword Emperor laughing, their jaws dropped. The 9 Dragons guildmaster remarked that Du Huang might have softened with age, but he wouldn't let something like that pass easily. They wondered who the Sword Emperor was looking at and noticed the demonic sword. The Parthenon guildmaster realized that every rank hunter is a vital asset. Each rank hunter holds the power to change the balance, especially the demonic sword, a genius who reached rank in only 2 years. Every guild wanted to recruit him. The Parthenon guildmaster knew the demonic sword had publicly declined all guild offers, but that was just his official position. He suspected a personal connection between the Sword Emperor and the demonic sword, which could disrupt all their plans. Glancing at the 9 Sword guildmaster, who nodded back, the Parthenon guildmaster saw that Du Huang was pleased. Du Huang hadn't expected to see Ihyun. Assuming Ihyun would find such an event uncomfortable, the Limitless guildmaster observed the demonic sword, recognizing his genius but noting that he hadn't yet broken his limits, suggesting the demonic sword wasn't ready to challenge him. A guild member interrupted, trembling as he asked about someone's identity. The guildmaster thought he meant the demonic sword, saying he might seem overwhelming to the member, but the member clarified he meant the person beside him, pointing at Ihyun, and said he sensed an overwhelming power from him. The guildmaster claimed that even if everyone attacked together, they'd stand no chance against him.